Hello, everybody, and welcome to another debate dissection with Mark Reed and Better Than Ember, where we're taking apart and breaking down all the latest and greatest and worst debates out there to see what the cause of death was. Ember, it is wonderful to see. It feels like so long, but it's only been like 2 weeks, I think, that we've
Yeah,
done one of
yeah, we
these.
we were off
Um,
last week for your
yeah.
debate. Um,
Mm.
I honestly I'm blanking on what the topic was, but we did take
Oh,
last
it
week
was
off.
flat
Yes.
Earth. It was flat
Yeah.
Earth. It wasn't a huge deal. But so Ember and I have an agreement. If one of us has a debate or something that we're doing, it takes precedent, and totally understand. So I apologize. Totally my fault. In hindsight, it probably wasn't worth it. It was Iron Horse or Flat Earth Aussie Jesus or whatever he's calling himself these days. So, but it was nice because I was jonesing for a debate. Is that okay to say
Fair.
on YouTube? But yeah, I kind of really wanted to debate somebody about something, and I really have to work on setting up more debates. Were you interested in doing the Marvel versus DC again? Like, I know that you were scheduled and you couldn't make that because of time problems. We just got confusion over the time, but you said you were interested in doing it again.
Yeah, we could give it a try. I
Okay.
didn't want to suggest the same topic over again, but
Okay.
that or something I'm open to possibilities.
Yeah,
Was it
sure.
Justin dropping into the chat that brought that to mind? Because I see that
No,
hooligan
no.
in there.
Oh, Hooligans in there? Yeah, I don't have actually have that. No, no. I was thinking actually what reminded me is Donnie. This debate that we're doing is on standing for
Mm.
truth, and I it reminded me because Donnie's such a big debater, and I want to try and get Donnie to debate it because why not? I guess because you know
Weirdly,
Donnie's
that
such a
crossed
huge
my mind
DC.
too. I've been,
Yeah,
especially since you did the Marvel versus DC debate, but even before then, I'd been
yeah.
trying to get into the Comic Con that I run debates. Like I
Oh,
suggested for
oh,
last year's
nice.
program, having like somebody debate Star Trek captains. Like one person would argue pro Captain Picard,
Nice.
one person
Yeah.
would argue pro Captain Kirk. We never did get it onto the main stage, partly
Mm.
because people were worried about violence. Nerds are crazy, but doing something
Really?
virtual could be cool, you know?
Violence? I mean, people debate all kinds of
I
people
think they
debate
were
religions
mostly
and
kidding, but I'm not entirely sure.
okay. Okay. Um, hmm. Yeah, okay. Well, I mean, I would like to do Star Wars versus Star Trek as well. I think that'd be a good one as
Yeah,
well.
yeah, that's a big name
Um,
one.
yeah, I would love to do that as well. But today, well, just a bit of news as well. I found out today that Australians have the right to disconnect. It's huge news. It's basically you have the right to not take any work calls, not answer emails after hours, and your employer can be held responsible if, sort of liable if you actually are forced to do that after hours, which is incredible. I used to work on phones, and if the call was going late, you'd just work after your end time. And it's really nice that they can't make you do that anymore you know
Yeah,
yeah.
that's really cool.
Mm. Yeah, so I did not know that, and I found out this morning. Basically, I thought I would share it with all of you. Things are moving forward for workers' rights everywhere around Australia. I'm happy to announce that. So I got out the biggest Australia thing that I had in the background. But
Aha.
today, yeah, so that's the reason why I've got the Australian thing in the background. I'm feeling kind of very not patriotic, but happy that some news to help workers in Australia has come over. I really do. If you're wondering about the flags, the left hand side is the flag of Australia, and the right hand side is the Aboriginal flag, which is
Hmm.
important to represent as well. Which is an amazing flag. It looks so awesome. It's the red earth and the sun setting on it kind of thing. It's an awesome flag, absolutely awesome. I think it's much better than the English like Union Jack kind of thing. Please don't hate me, English people, but sorry, ours
I
is
mean,
derivative.
it's a yeah, it's a flag from centuries ago, and
Yeah.
it's just a modification of the same proto-Christian flag format that so many European countries
Mhm.
still use today. It's just different
Oh
colors.
yeah. No, yeah, absolutely. And I really like the Aboriginal one. I think it's wonderful. But how are
Yeah,
you today, Amber? How are you doing? I
I'm all
love your
right.
hat.
Thank you. This one is my favorite. Of course, I change it up from time to time, but I really like this one. It's been a busy day. I tried making
Oh,
something new that I learned about at a bridal shower a little while ago, and I think it maybe kind of turned out okay. I forget what they're called, but they're these little puff balls made of crushed Oreos and cream cheese with white chocolate on
oof,
top to like. Oh, they're
oof.
so good. I hope I didn't
That
screw them up
sounds
too badly.
what puff
I'm
pastry kind of thing.
kinda, except you don't actually cook them. You just mix the Oreo bits with the cream cheese,
Oh,
and then
because
you
puff
melt the
pastry
chocolate.
balls is profiteroles, I believe it's called profiteroles. That's puff pastry, but usually it's got some sort of cream or custard in the middle. Profiteroles.
Ooh, that's a good idea. I
Yeah,
wonder how
yeah.
I could go about doing that. But yeah, the initial version, I'm gonna test it tomorrow when I bring my son over. It was mostly because I wanted him to be able to try them. We'll see how it goes.
Mm,
But yeah, I just
mm.
had a show over on Skeptic Haven. That was a pretty good time.
Oh, great, fantastic.
Yeah, yeah, I got
Oh,
to
that's
use the
awesome.
experience I get here from when
Yeah.
you have to leave and reset your computer, the way I usually vamp with like join the Patreon,
Mm,
subscribe, all that. I just did the same thing when Cynthia had a glitch. So it was good practice. And I got
yeah.
to chat with Mandisa for a little while, which was really
Oh,
cool also.
nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna interview her and I never got an email address or something. I've really got to get on that. And I have to interview you as well. I've said, don't let me forget that because that's definitely something that has to happen. But I want to just quickly, Doc Dino member for 11 months. Thanks so much, Doc. It's good to see you. I haven't seen you for a bit, but that's okay. It's really good to see you, mate. Paleontologist checking in, geologic column exists. Well, this one isn't about the geologic column, it's about evolution, but that doesn't invalidate your comment. You are quite correct. You are
It's true.
technically
It's
correct.
true. Hey, that
The best
means,
kind
yeah,
of
that's
correct.
right. I have that button. I have that button. While I'm hunting,
Okay.
it's a new month. That means all our membership milestones
Oh,
reset
yeah.
and our membership, all the
Oh,
membership things. Yeah,
I forgot about that. Hold it a sec. I will start off by
found it.
um
You are technically correct. The best kind of correct.
there you go. Yes.
Hell yeah.
Okay, and the second member chat is from Yahooligan, a member for a year. Awesome. What a year. Awesome, Justin. Thank you so much, mate. It's been a great year as a member on Mark's channel. Oh, thank you, mate. That's awesome. It's been a wild ride and just so good. The readerships have gone out to per aspera ad astra. Sorry about that. Fern Lovebond. Oh, I love Fern. Fern's awesome. Fern
Hell
Lovebond.
yeah.
Ian Chen official. Oh, he's just so good. Baron Salaz. Off the chain atheist. Congratulations, winners, chicken dinners, and we'll be giving out more readerships during the month. So stick around and you might be able to get a readership yourself. Really good. Fantastic. Enjoy your emotes and your little benefits. Whew, going through all of
Yeah,
that. Whoops.
all kinds of goodies. I
Uh,
spoke with Ian just the other day, and he's got another debate with Kent in the works, possibly next month. But
who's that?
Ian Chen.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah, no,
Yeah,
he low-key roasts Kent every chance he gets, which is
every
hilarious.
time.
Kent doesn't seem to understand it's happening, but it doesn't matter because it is actually hilarious.
Hmm.
Yeah, no, I like Ian. Ian's great, absolutely fantastic. But yeah, I guess we'll get to the debate now. This is between Planet Peterson, who I must admit I haven't heard of. Really impressed from watching this. Oh, Jedi coming through with 5 readerships as well. Thank you so much, Jedi, keeping that hype train rolling.
Hell
Went to
yeah.
What the Timothy T. Grimley. That is not Timothy. It's Timothy. I don't know how to pronounce that. I see Spin, Squid Super Hunk, and Thylacolian Kennedy. Thank you so much. That's awesome. Thank you, Jedi.
Nice. Nice,
Winners,
nice.
chicken dinners. Enjoy your emotes and your benefits. That is awesome. Thanks, Jedi. Jedi's amazing.
Jedi is also
Um,
awesome. Yes.
yeah, and a friend of mine, Max, just did his first debate on Modern Day Debate. It was an absolute cluster. It was just
Oh,
terrible. I loved
good.
it. Oh, I loved it.
I saw the thumbnail for that. That was Max was with Jen.
Yes.
Who I was it you and I who took on Jen for
Yes.
Evolution? Yeah.
Yeah.
Wild.
And she's debating the other side. And I did a solo debate against Jen. I think it was one of my first solo debates against Jen, where I was for evolution and she was against it. So basically in the debate, she said, I can argue both sides. And it's like, how? I don't understand. But it's Jen, and I love Jen. She's an awesome person. I just disagree vehemently with her. But she was supporting evolution. The funny thing was, there was a woman, Carissa, there, who was sort of saying that she was a evolutionary biologist, and then thought we had dinosaur DNA. It's like, I don't know about that one, Chief.
Yeah.
I don't know. I have suspicions, but
maybe she's been listening to too many young Earth debates where they
Maybe.
inevitably bring up the soft tissue and dinosaur bones and all that crap. It's like, no. The cross-linking of the iron in blood cells does not mean we actually have the blood cells.
Correct. Yes. Yeah. We've got fragments of blood cells, but they're not actually a blood. Like, it's too degraded.
Oh, Alex has a good point. We do still have birds. Birds are dinosaurs.
Yeah, she's talking about non-avian dinosaurs. I get what you're saying. Yeah. No, you're correct, which is you're technically correct. The best kind of correct.
You are technically correct. The best kind of correct.
There you go. That's awesome.
Couldn't resist.
So this is Planet Peterson. I'm really impressed with him. He's cool, calm, collected, very well prepared. That's the one thing I've noticed. Incredibly well prepared, which always I appreciate. Kent's easy to prepare for. We've said it before. We'll say it again. He's incredibly easy to prepare for. But he came in absolutely fantastically, knowing exactly what he had to do, how to get there. And I am really impressed with Planet Peterson. I hadn't heard of him before this because I'm ignorant and don't socialize very much.
But he's kind of a niche. He's one of those people who's been using TikTok lives to do rapid fire debates, and then he'll take clips of some of the most fun calls and just dump them on a YouTube channel. He's been building up his YouTube channel for a little while now, but that's still mostly his forte, is just randos on the TikToks.
Yep. Okay. Well, that's fine. He did a great job. So Kent. I was going to skip out his intro, but I thought I'd leave it in just for fairness sake. We can skip it if you want. He doesn't say anything new. He's the same tired old person. But let's grab it up. Is there anything else we got to go through before we start this thing?
Oh, probably. But like, subscribe, share, tell your friends. Send everyone to come join us and having the fun with the debates and things.
Look, it's Hooligan just celebrated a year on my channel. I've been saying for a year I've got to get better at promotion. It just hasn't happened. So I'm so glad you're here. Like, seriously,
it's what I do.
Glad you're here. Yeah, it's what you do. Yeah, so it's so good. But yeah, yeah, absolutely. And this is great. So let's get it started. Now, this first part is before the debate, which is I just had to include it. So sorry, Planet Peterson. I took the start as well. Robin Webster, member for 11 months. Oh, almost a year, Robin. That's so fantastic. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And Robin, one of the best mods out there and just an awesome person. Absolutely awesome. So
hell yeah. We love Robin.
I'll go over that for the audience as well before we get into the first opening statement.
Yeah, just the only important part is when you're being cross-examined, you can't answer questions with questions.
That's not 100% true. You can ask clarifying questions. You can't start lines of questioning back. So yeah, but he's correct. I know what he means. He's right.
Yeah, so
they do that in court all the time.
You would know.
That's why he did. Oh,
yeah, that's why I put it in there,
Perfection.
and I loved it. They do that in court all the time. You would know. I mean, I tried to slip it in by saying, what constitutes evidence in a court of law, and Kent would know this because he's been in court so much. But that was good. That was way better because he brought it up. They do that in court all the time.
Love it.
Yeah, you would know, wouldn't you? Yeah.
We are going to hand it over to you now. And again, you have up to 10 minutes for an opening statement. Go ahead.
Thank you very much. So countless times I've seen Kent ask questions that he believes pose a challenge to evolution. Why this? Why that? So let's say that hypothetically, Kent asks a question that somebody does not have an answer for. What is Kent's answer going to be? If it is a how question, how did something happen, this, that, or the other, Kent's answer will be God did it. It's not how God did it. It's just the claim that God did it. If it's a why question, Kent will say the same sort of thing.
And this is interesting because it seems to be a evolution versus sort of creationism, because he's asking questions about creationism. So I think the topic of the debate, what was it? It was biodiversity in some way. I can't remember the exact topic. I don't think Planet Peterson put it up on his channel, but Standing for Truth did. So it was sort of which explains, so it's a common descent debate is what it's listed as, the Great Common Descent debate. So I think, usually Kent will not answer questions about his own worldview. But for some reason, I don't know how Planet Peterson wrangled it, but he is on this one. And I would love to be able to do that in a debate, not just have it evolution, and make him actually account for something.
I wonder. I notice we see Spanky, the creator of the universe, on the shelf behind Eric here, and I kind of wonder if that may have played a role in getting Kent to accept that, because it's no longer, evolution versus creationism. Eric has an actual theology of his own to present, perhaps.
So is Spanky the purple hippo thing?
Yes, with the sunglasses back there. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Nice.
That's not an answer or even an attempt to make an argument. It's simply a conclusion given in desperation. So I promise that tonight, Kent will not give a single answer or reason or explanation for anything that we discuss. Kent will only give us his conclusions. Hopefully, at a few turns, if Kent's honest, he will at least say, I don't know. But the problem is the God hypothesis is fundamentally useless, which is the alternative explanation to evolution by natural selection and therefore common descent, which is...
Yeah, and it's unfalsifiable, which is sort of... So unfalsifiable things are kind of not even worth candidate explanations. And there's a very good reason in philosophy of science that is. It's because we can never 100% absolutely prove something, but we can disprove things. So if something is unfalsifiable, it's kind of really useless, even as a hypothesis, because you hypothesize, well, if God did it, then this, and then you've got no way to check it. You've got absolutely no way to investigate it. And we'll see, Kent misrepresent science later, as he always does, to, certain things.
Coincidentally, sometimes creationists do try to make predictions, testable hypotheses.
Oh, yeah.
Donnie Badinsky from Standing for Truth wrote some in a book that he published.
Really?
And I had a great time tearing apart this book. It was a 2-part live stream. It wound up being 9 hours of video. One of my best performing videos so far. But it's just hilarious how...
Which book
when
is it?
creation... It's Genesis Verified.
Okay, it's reverse, so I'm having trouble reading it.
Is it?
Yeah. That's
I
okay.
wonder... It's fine.
What was his prediction?
Oh, let me see. There's no rhyme or reason to how this book is set up, so I'm not sure where the heck I might find it. But it was things like he talks about the haplogroups. So he says, if the creation model is true, then we should be able to find evidence that all the haplogroups ultimately came from the Middle East, not from Africa.
Right. And that's not true.
Yeah,
Hmm.
it's a
I
bit of
think
an oof.
haplogroup L is the one from Africa, and that's the most sort of basal sort of one that you get. I believe. Don't quote me on that. But yeah, of the multiple haplogroups, it's definitely traced to Africa, not the Middle East. There's no way.
It's the
Yeah.
topic of our debate tonight.
Oh, but you know, Donnie will just say, "Hey, that's not true." It's just something that they made up to try and make out of Africa work, kind of thing. It's like, no, Donnie, it's not.
No, well, mixed reactions. Someone asked him on a live stream about that video, and he was just, oh, I didn't have that much to do with that book. That was mostly the two Matts that wrote all that stuff. My name was just on it, and
Sure.
they don't have an actual author's page per se, but the very last page, it has just their logos and QR codes, and it's the top
Is that
one.
Mr. Batman?
No, it's Matt Man. It was when Raw Matt was
okay.
trying to rebrand, but the top one is standing for truth, and then Raw Matt, the guy who thinks that wife abuse is funny, and Matt Powell, whom I have to give slightly less shit to for denouncing Steven Anderson after the bullshit about him came out.
Yeah, and that was horrific. I've started watching the interviews that are up. There's 3 of them, couple with one with each of his children. The 17-year-old girl is heartbreaking. I don't know how she's keeping it together, quite frankly. But yeah, horrible stuff. It's depressing to watch. I'm struggling to get through it because it's depressing. Horrific. And I will watch it. It's just wow. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah.
The God hypothesis can't answer any questions. And we know this because a God, the type of God Kent believes in, could have done literally anything. It has supposed unlimited abilities. So did God create the world billions of years ago? That's absolutely a possibility. God could have done that. What about only 6,000 years ago? God could certainly have done that as well. God could have created the whole world an hour before this debate began. Kent thinks that the Bible proves that the answer is 6,000 years and that evolution doesn't take place and every organism was created pretty much as we see them today. But that's just question begging. According to Kent, Genesis is literal, the genealogies are reliable, and the beginning of everything goes back 6,000 years. If that's true, then there must be evidence, but there is zero evidence. For example, we can see billions of light years. That's really all you need to establish that that claim is false. So it's over right there. Kent will say something like, if God created a mature Adam, then he can create a mature looking universe, but that's not an explanation, it's a conclusion.
If God can create a mature Adam, he can create a mature universe. Yes. I mean, it is a conclusion. Is it an argument? I guess it is an argument. It's not really a hypothesis we can test, though, and I think that's Planet Peterson's point. Like, how do we test if that is the case or that is not the case? I don't think that people like Kent Hovind are interested in testing whether it's the case. It's sort of a dogmatic belief. Like, he just thinks that is the case no matter what. He's not interested in proving or disproving it in some way.
It's a philosophical can. It's a plausibility thing rather than, if God actually demonstrated the creation of a mature Adam, then it would make the belief more plausible, but we don't have that demonstration. So it's just saying, if this is true, then this could also be true. And it's wishful thinking on top of bad logic, on top of more wishful thinking. It's a nothing salad. I love it.
He's kind of layering up these things. So he's saying sort of, if Adam was created with age, then the universe could have been created with age. But when he says if, he doesn't mean if. What Hovind is actually saying is, because Adam was created with age, because he absolutely fervently believes it. It's not an if statement, right? He shouldn't really be saying if there. I'm not sure if even he does. He says, God created Adam with age so he could create the universe with age. But this is a problem because that certainly has not been demonstrated to be the case. And another, of course, unfalsifiable claim, so we can't falsify it at all. So because God can do anything, basically. So it's a sort of it's a you know, it's like me saying fairies did all of this, created the universe. It's unfalsifiable. It's not even worth looking into. We've got to have some way to demonstrate that that is not true.
Well, it's worse than unfalsifiable because, like, first of all, we have to demonstrate fairies exist. And then we have to demonstrate they have the capability of creating the universe. Then we have to demonstrate they did. With a God hypothesis, it's the same sort of thing. Like, first you have to demonstrate there even are gods before you start claiming credit for your specific God. It's wild.
Right. It's a leap. It is a massive leap.
If there was a way to date the universe, and the universe is 6,000 years old, then the only acceptable answer is 6,000 years. But since that's not what happened, now what we have to do is invent from nothingness the claim that God just did it that way and created a very young universe that is billions of light years across. And there's no evidence for that. It's just that Kent has to say that because that's the only way to preserve the conclusion that he already had. It's not an explanation. It's not an argument. It's not predicated on evidence. It's just an assertion. Now, I said all of that, but I don't want this topic is not about, the age of the universe or anything like that. I only draw out that example as a way to explain the problem that we have here. So tonight, I hope that we only talk about biological evolution from this point on. I just give that example to illustrate the fallacy in Kent's reasoning. So at no point tonight do I believe that Kent will use data to support what he believes in, apart from claiming that frogs give birth to frogs, as if that disproves evolution.
Yeah, that's not, he's not showing any great power of prophecy here, quite frankly. Like, we all know what Kent's like. But I do, as I said at the start, I do really appreciate just how prepared he was. And Kent's easy to prepare for, but it still does take work and, sort of looking through this stuff. And so, Planet Peterson, I'm so sorry you had to watch Kent to prepare for this. Like, seriously, we're all, but
in fairness,
prepared. I like it.
We chose to watch Kent today too, so
Yeah, but it's not for Kent's arguments. Let's face it; it's for the hilarity of seeing him slap down again.
That's how we started doing these. Was a bunch of our friends from over on Amy Newman's channel, Amy and James and Andrew Coming and a few others invaded an open room and bitch slapped Kent silly.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was our first debate review. It was great.
Yeah. Fantastic. Yeah. Yeah.
Which it does not. At no point will Kent be able to give an explanation for how or why God did anything. So it's just literally useless. Whereas evolution has made successful predictions and has passed every single test that's ever come up. And we even use evolution or the concepts, the principles of evolution today to do things like groundbreaking medical research. So it's incredibly useful and important. A lot of science, such as gravitational waves, is pretty much incomprehensible to almost everybody, but it's only flat earthers that say stuff like it's fake. Kent has no problem with much of science, maybe even most science, but he claims evolution isn't science. It is, it's just that he has to say that because the evidence is overwhelming. Evolution, genetics, paleontology, geology, these fields all operate in accordance with the exact same scientific method that...
Oh, hello, Planet Peterson is in the chat.
Hey, it's Eric. I saw Eric Bridge the Divide also reviewed at least part of these, and Eric popped by for that too. Really cool. I blame Grayson though, because apparently Grayson was on Eric's stream earlier. It's interesting timing.
Look, you're really welcome to join. Eric, sorry, I'm not really familiar with you. I do apologize. We're just reviewing the debate. As I said, I'm very impressed. So if you want to jump on, I can certainly provide you a link. That's no problem at all. I didn't feel like I would. I did tag you. I didn't think I maybe should have invited you, but I don't know. I felt a bit like that would be presumptuous of me. Oh, yeah, sure. More than happy to, please. I tell you what, is there a way I can shoot you a link at all? Like, do you have Discord or anything like that? Is there some way I can get it to you?
We're doing logistics here, folks.
Yep, we're making it happen, Captain.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do-do.
Oh,
Okay.
if you tag Vector Slide on Discord, that's me for all of my Sims. Slide into those DMs. Thanks, Booba Sweat. Yeah, no, I
Very nice. Very nice.
look, I don't slide anywhere, quite frankly.
I
Doc
also,
Dino,
to save time,
Doc Dino.
I sent the invite through TikTok messages as well.
Okay, cool.
If
No
that's more
worries at
convenient.
all.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I do apologize. We're not trying to do this behind your back. We just thought it was amazing. Actually, we've been meaning to do it for 2 weeks now, to be honest with you. It's really good. Okay, I'll send it to Doc Dino. If you can forward that on, Doc, I'd really appreciate it, mate. That would be amazing. But I guess we'll move on, and then if Eric wants to join, absolutely welcome. Absolutely welcome. Okay, beautiful.
Ta-da!
Yep.
Yay. Okay. Let's
Got it.
continue
Fantastic. Or just 1 second. Yeah. Beautiful. No problem at all.
All right. So we'll may have ourselves a guest later, which could be really neat.
Yeah, absolutely. That would be fantastic. Look, I usually love to have the people in the debate with me. It's really good to get insight on, what they meant, what they were trying to do, whether that plan changed somewhere along the line. It's amazing how often your battle plan never survives contact with the enemy and these things. But
it's true.
Yeah.
Any of you watching, myself or Kent, we all take for granted all the time. Like, I don't even know how a microwave or a computer or a cell phone works, but I don't go around assuming that it's magic or claiming that it's fake or anything like that.
Yeah, that's interesting. I had a conversation. I have to put it up with a guy called Dustin Buck. I run into him occasionally, and sort of he was saying, "Oh, you have to learn all of these things about science. I have to learn about evolution. I have to learn about physics. I have to learn." And something that occurred to me afterwards was why. You don't. You accept that electro, or electronic circuitry works without learning it, right? You don't go and unless you're me and you do something in that field, you don't learn how voltage and ampage and how resistance works along circuits, and how that makes logic gates. You just accept that it works. And so why do you have to go and learn all of the fundamentals of these fields in order to have confidence that it works? You know what I mean? Like, you don't do that for anything else, but for some reason the claim is, well, I've got to understand all of evolution in order to have any confidence it works at all.
Well, it kind of goes back to the general theistic problem, right? Like it's Brandolini's law. A person can spout bullshit and it takes you 10 times as much effort to dispel the bullshit.
Yes.
Like we've said numerous times, to be a Christian, you just have to go, shrug, God did it in the answer to every question. To push back on that, to counter the Christian shrug, God did it, you have to be an expert, never wrong, and with full citations and sources in atomic physics, in cosmology, in biology, in genetics, in freaking robotics, probably. Like, you need to be a PhD in every field of science. Or that one area you don't know, they go, ha, you're ignorant, therefore God, I win.
Yeah.
Same thing, just narrowed down to evolution in this case.
Right. And do you get that feeling when you're in there that you're supposed to know everything about everything, basically?
There's a pressure towards that end, but I have no problem saying I don't know. Although I do make a big deal about the fact that I'm able to say I don't know. How about you, theists?
Yeah. Yeah, and I think pushing back and more, like I love what he's doing here, pushing back and saying, hey, we want more explanation than God done it. It's absolutely necessary, because what Matt Delahunty used to say, I don't know if he still does, I'd assume so, that you can't solve a mystery with a bigger mystery. And I really like that. Yeah, you can't,
Kent will call these things religions, which is just it's almost too stupid to even deserve a response. But what I will say is that these fields of science, they make zero appeals to the supernatural. So not only are they not religions, but they by definition can't be religions.
So this depends on what your definition of a religion is. I lean towards agreeing with Planet Peterson here. I really do. That a supernatural component, what I would classify as a religion is you have some object or entity of worship. You know, you worship something as a greater entity than yourself, basically, or, you know, the world around you. It's something that you worship as controlling you, basically. So can there be secular religions? Seems very oxymoronic, doesn't it? If a religion is just a system of beliefs and tenets, and a system of morality, I guess, then secular humanism would be a religion, and some people have classified it as such. But I don't consider it a religion because they don't worship anything. You know, they don't hold in high esteem anything, you know, greater, you know, with more significance than themselves. So I don't see that. I don't have a problem with defining a religion as something that you know, venerates a supernatural being. I don't really have a problem with that, but I think other people have different definitions for religion. Well, what do you think?
I find a lot of utility in examining the edge cases and looking for what makes a thing fall on one side or the other. And one of the things that comes to mind with God-free religions is something like ancestor worship, you know, because there's a supernatural component, there's influence on your life, but no actual God. And in a lot of, well, the Japanese Americans that I've met who talk about their ancestral cultural beliefs, they don't describe the feelings towards the ancestors in a worship sort of way. There's this sense that your ancestors are, you know, watching you live your life, and maybe they're happy for you, maybe they're proud of you, maybe they're judging you because you've done something reprehensible. But it's not really a religion because there's no worship. It's more like a superstition. And so something like that helps you put a perimeter around what constitutes a religion. Is there dogma that you have to follow? Is there worship as in the requirements of time or specific material sacrifice or stuff you have to do because of your religion? Things that you have to believe because of your religion.
Yeah.
And we just don't see that in the secular stuff.
Right. There is no dogma, but I mean, dogma is incontrovertible truth, right? It's basically when you're talking about dogma, and dogma sort of has it kind of has gotten a bad rap. It's like indoctrination. It's one of those words that has a bad rap in, you know, when you say, hey, that is dogma. All dogma is that it's a belief that is incontrovertible. Like it means that is the absolute truth in a religion or a belief system. And the secular religions, which I don't think qualify as well, they kind of don't have that incontrovertible truth, like this absolute truth to them. So you could be right. It may be the existence of dogma in these systems which make something a religion. That's interesting. That's really interesting. Nobody here cares, but the Mets won today. Hey, I don't know. Is that a baseball team? I'm so sorry.
It's one of the New York City ones.
I don't sports ball, but congratulations, whoever the Mets. Pinworm for $2. Thank you so much, Barnaby. I really appreciate it. You are awesome. Thank you so much. This would make political parties religions. Being in a group, the religion labels group. Yes, but there's no real tenets for political parties. You can have different beliefs within that. That's an interesting question. Yeah, no, that's fair. That's absolutely fair. I don't think I don't think political parties would worship anything, and under my definition, they wouldn't wouldn't venerate or worship anything.
In
Well-
the U.S., we're kind of having trouble with that on one of the parties.
Well, is Trump, a religion now? That's the question.
Kind of, yes. I mean, he has his own
Right.
Bibles. He's got actual self-professed worshipers. There's religious art and iconography of him being the embodiment of Jesus or having the Holy Spirit within. All kind. Yeah, there is a legit religious cult
Right.
around this guy. It's not just
Yeah.
jokes and satire.
So
It's
that's
not
what I mean.
all of them, but it's the thing.
Yeah, so if they worship or venerate something, I think it is descending into a religion, but all of this is sort of based on definitions, and definitions aren't prescriptive. They just describe usages. So I don't think there's anything wrong with Eric's definition of religion as being worshipping a supernatural being. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I would probably define it differently, but that's okay. As long as we know what he's talking about, it's not a problem. Yeah, Maya says it's a cult. Yeah, you're probably right. Pinworm for another $2. Hope my favorite godless duo are doing well. Yeah, I'm doing well, Pinworm. There's a lot of stuff that I meant to get up, like post, and I didn't get round to it. So I'm trying not to beat myself up, but I'm doing well. I hope you're well as well. Thank you so much for the $2. Pinworm strikes again.
Hell yeah.
Hell
Good to see a Pinworm. I don't know exactly where you live, but I know you're generally in the Kentucky area. So after seeing the destruction that Joe had to deal with, everybody in the Southeast U.S. I know has been having a rough time with storm damage and stuff. So I hope everybody's well in that area.
Yeah,
and especially you, Pinworm.
Florida
Yeah.
got hit hard, didn't it? Yeah. That's awful. I really feel for you guys.
Ever. And then the final real quick point is that Kent actually believes in evolution, and Kent believes in natural selection, because Kent believes that thousands of years ago, an event that wiped out almost all life on Earth happened. And then today, all of the species we see today, which were not present on that arc, are the result of evolution and natural selection. Now, we disagree about how far it goes, and today we will be going over the evidence. I'm sure in Kent's cross-examinations, he'll be asking questions where that evidence will be relevant and get brought up. But for now, that's where things stand. That's my opening statement.
And that's a good point. Kent sort of says that these more basal animals were on the ark. These kinds were on the ark, and suddenly they rapid fire speciated into every single, so there was one filiform on the ark, and then that split into all of the cats we see today, big cats and small cats and things like that. That is such rapid speciation. But in order to get around the idea of speciation, because in the debate I was watching with Max, one of the anti-evolution people said, yeah, speciation happens. And it's like, well, that's macroevolution. Like you've just acknowledged evolution. But Kent will just say, well, no one knows what a species is, and then refuse to acknowledge speciation because no one knows what a species is, and I think he does that in this debate as well. So I like that Eric has addressed that, that we do get hyper evolution, as Left-Handed Jedi points out, hyper evolution right after the flood that suddenly just stopped and slowed to a crawl again for some reason, like who knows?
Yeah, it's the same thing with the enhanced radioactive decay. Nothing that we have found in the universe can significantly affect the rate of radiometric decay. That's why we use it as a metric to measure time's passage with. But under the young Earth creation model, it's super accelerated during that 1 year. And no one knows why or why that changed. It's just, God did it.
Yeah. And that's the answer. God did it for some reason. It doesn't explain anything. And I'm glad Eric did point that out. It's not an explanation.
All right. Thank you very much, Eric, for that opening statement, our first opening statement for tonight's debate. For anybody in the chat just joining us, we will be doing an audience Q&A once we're done with the main portion of tonight's debate. So please, if you do have a question, make sure you're sending those in. Challenges, objections, perhaps as well. We'll interact with those. Okay, Kent, we're going to hand it over to you now, and you have up to 10 minutes for an opening statement. Go ahead.
Well, thank you so much. Tonight we're going to see that we live in two different worlds. There's the real world, things we can observe, study, test, and then there's the world of imagination called Planet Peterson.
Yeah, this
Oh,
is just sort
the
of
projection.
yeah. So this is sort of poisoning the well straight off the bat. He's just sort of just attacking. It's more ad hom than anything. Like, I'm not sure if it categorizes as ad hom, but it really is just attacking the person and not the arguments kind of thing. Like, and he's not making any arguments in favor. This is the thing. This is just an attack on the person. It's really bad.
We're demonstrating some of
Yeah.
that tonight in his opening. He has a wild imagination, and we shall see. In the real world, cows have baby cows. That is what we call science. It's observable, it's testable, it's demonstrable. That's the definition of science. On planet Peterson, cows came from an amoeba over billions of years with slow, gradual changes that you have to imagine happening long ago.
This is just a straw man. Really. An amoeba is a modern organism. We're probably talking about, some kind of basal eukaryote, presumably, is what he's talking about. But, accuracy and sort of integrity has never been Kent's strong point.
We never
Yeah.
observe an amoeba.
Yeah, it's just he doesn't really care if he's, most people will care if they're straw manning their opponent. If someone says, well, you're straw manning me, you would say, well, what is your actual thing? And I'll make sure I get it right. But Kent doesn't have that in him. He's happy to straw man. It's pretty bad.
Yeah, he doesn't fully understand the scenario. And yeah, the amoeba thing, that comes up a lot, and it bugs me a little bit. I understand that a lot of people like Kent, they don't actually care what possible organism the last universal common ancestor could have been. They just go, oh, it's like a bacteria or an amoeba or something. But the amoeba, the modern amoeba, is every bit as evolved as every other organism on this planet. It's had just as much time, arguably more generations. It certainly reproduces a hell of a lot faster than humans do.
Yeah.
So it's possibly even more highly evolved than humans are. Maybe we should be worshiping amoebas, Kent.
Maybe. Start that religion.
Yeah.
the cult of amoeba.
Produce anything other than amoeba. But he thinks an amoeba slowly, over billions of generations, changed into a cow and everything else. Today there are, in the real world, 450 breeds of cows that farmers recognize.
Yeah, but cows weren't originally cows. They came from aurochs, which we don't have any sort of DNA or any pictures, or even, I don't believe we have no fossils of them either. All we've got are cave drawings of aurochs, and they're not cows. They are a different species, like before the cow. But the cow is still an aurochs, because the thing is that when you have phylogenetics, nothing ever leaves its clade. So cows are still eukaryotes, as we are. We're still old world monkeys. We're still every single category that we're put into. So of course, cows don't produce non-cows, because they're always going to be cows. They will just subdivide.
Love monophyly.
Right, law of monophyly. Thank you. I was actually struggling to remember that. So there might be cows that speciate, and you'll have, European cows and American cows, and then they'll speciate, and you'll have, some sort of, split between those. I don't know why he's
Well, he's doing the creationist thing of just hand waving. The world today is the same as the world of the past, but he doesn't care that his arguments are self-refuting. Like you said, invoking cows. That's a human-created species using selective breeding, which is a mechanism of evolution. Because evolution, of course, is just and only the change in the frequency of the alleles in a population over time. Artificial selection gets the job done every bit as well as natural selection. Cows are the result of that. Dogs are the result of that. Every domesticated thing that we have, from fruits to vegetables to our milk producers, are all the result of that. If humans can create new species by utilizing evolution as a tool, that kind of proves evolution is very effective.
Oh yeah. And stand corrected, we absolutely do have aurochs fossils. Okay. Well, maybe we just first learnt about it from cave drawings. It might be our first learning about it. I do know that they're important. There is cave drawings for them, but you know, we know that aurochs were, you know, not absolutely different from cows, but they are very, very different. You know,
I bet they're tasty.
Know this. I have no idea. I have no idea. But the same is true for chickens, for instance. There were you know, sort of jungle hens, I believe. You know, all of this stuff wasn't originally domesticated animals, and it wasn't like we just domesticated them and they became wild, then sort of, you know, domesticated. They actually changed over that period into what we know them as today.
4 different basic types: dairy, beef, dual purpose. Probably all the cows had a common ancestor called a cow. See, in the real world, somebody with a...
No, it's called an auroch, not a cow. Common ancestor was an auroch.
Time and interest could probably make a family tree where all the cows came from an ancestor, which would be a cow. But in the imaginary world of planet Peterson, cows are related to frogs and fish and kitty cats, and they're all related. On planet Peterson, hoofed animals like cows are related to butterflies and bees and frogs. This is the imaginary world that he lives in, folks. These charts that they make, these family trees, are pure imagination. It's fun, boys and girls. Just imagine. On planet Peterson, all you have to do is imagine. Slow.
Yeah, and this is really, you know, nasty stuff. Like really just sort of, you know, SpongeBob thing. And I used to get a hammer out and whack the SpongeBob kind of stuff. But it is...
Oh, he still does.
Oh, he still does? Oh, that's great. That's just
it's yeah, it's just limited to his tiny little Genesis Baptist Church channel now.
Mm-hmm.
And I suppose his Rumble thing, whatever. We don't see about it very often because he's been a little bit more low-key about it. He tends to only go after people with enough clout to make it worth his while, like Simon Dan.
Mm.
But Simon Dan doesn't really care. He's like, this dude is irrelevant. You know?
Yeah. And I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if he, you know, Planet Peterson gets on Whack an Atheist, and you know, I've been hoping to be on Whack an Atheist, but never managed to get there, which is a shame.
You need to be upwards of 50,000 subscribers because Kent doesn't
Probably,
care about the arguments.
Yeah,
he cares about attracting your audience to come watch his videos.
Gradual changes in the gene code, and you can change an amoeba to a cow and a butterfly and a frog. Just imagine. That's all this is, folks. It is certainly not science, what he believes. Okay, it's a religion. See how easy it is? Turn an amoeba to a cow.
So now he's gone. Yeah, he's gone way above and beyond with the straw man here. He's no longer saying we're all descended from an amoeba. He's saying you can turn a butterfly into a frog, which that's not even a mischaracterization. That's either Kent is ignorant or he is lying. Why not both?
Yeah, I don't think he's ignorant. He's had this explained to him so many times, but he relies on conflation to make that appeal to incredulity. You know what I mean? Like he relies on conflating those two in the same way someone would say, well, it's a magic sky daddy that poofed everything into existence kind of thing. Well, that's not exactly what the Christians believe, but it relies on that conflation to sort of show, well, that sounds ridiculous. And that's all that he's doing. He's just appealing to his followers' incredulity. So he wants to make it sound as ridiculous as possible. But he does it in a very dishonest way. He conflates these ideas. It's the way he uses relate as well. Like, are you related to a strawberry? And he kind of is suggesting in the way that he's using it that related means, oh, the strawberry is your cousin kind of thing. While in biology, related is whether you shared a common ancestor, even if that was trillions of generations ago. So
yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned that because that is my favorite part of this debate. It comes up later where Eric takes that equivocation, flips it around, and stabs Kent in the face with it.
Imagine it, okay? Boys and girls on planet Peterson, we don't waste a lot of time trying to find a scientific answer.
And what's with the picture of him? Like, you know, see, this is the stuff that he does. So I think it's only fair if I find dumb pictures of Kent Hovind, and trust me, there is a lot, and put it up on my thumbnails and stuff, because damn, dude, in a debate, really?
Yeah.
What are you doing? What are you doing? Like, you're just trying to attack the person, not the arguments.
To where our planet came from, or where time came from, or space, or matter, and all energy came from, or how that first amoeba just made itself out of the rock soup. He wants to bypass all of that. Those are
Yep. Kent's stuffing his straw man. He loves his straw man. Made itself out of rock soup. Is that what they actually believe? If it isn't, then you're making a straw man, which absolutely is. He knows he is. He just can't help himself. I don't know what is wrong with this man, but he cannot help himself making straw man. Because he's been told this again and again and again. You know, the primordial soup hypothesis for abiogenesis. Nobody believes that. Nobody does. You know, that's something that we thought it might be the case. It was pretty well disproven. I don't know what he's doing.
He's mixing and matching his pieces parts. Like the thing about
Yeah.
the first amoeba, obviously amoeba's an advanced organism. The very first cellular life was very, very basic. It was prokaryotic even.
Yeah.
And it just, the whole made itself, that's projection about his god who apparently made himself out of the rock soup. That's projection because Kent actually believes the first human was made out of dirt. So
The dust, yeah.
yeah. It's
Ugh.
just nonsense.
Yeah.
steps for his religion to be considered as part of science. He wants to skip over all that. I assure you, he will skip over tonight, okay? We only focus on planet Peterson, on how the first amoeba slowly changed over billions of years into the amazing plants and animals we have today. It's fun to just let your imagination run wild.
It's not imagination. Well, we didn't just think this up and then just put it in a book. Though that's not what happened. There's a long sequence of events to us backing evolution as the reason for the diversification of life. Like that is just such a gross it's a gross representation of the theory of evolution, its development over the years.
Yeah, Kent is kind of punching himself in the face here because he just said science is what we can evaluate, test, observe, and so forth. And that's evolution. We can test and observe evolution. We can create new tests. We can find evidence of things that happened in the past, so on and so forth. It is science. Whereas what Kent believes, well, that's why he does that, because it is. He's projecting. It's pure imagination. Wouldn't it be fun to pretend if there were a magical being in the sky that just made things happen? Then we wouldn't need to do all this pesky research. We wouldn't need to look into anything because every answer ends with God did it.
God did it.
In the real world, millions of hours of scientific research has led to the conclusion that there seem to be 700 varieties of butterflies in the world that have been grouped into 20.
And I love how they're like going back to a common ancestor in this
What?
in this chart.
That's not how anything works.
So he does believe in speciation because all of these are different species of butterflies. And I believe that butterflies have different amounts of chromosomes as well, if I'm not mistaken. Most insects do because they've been around for so damn long.
Yeah, they have. They precede the land animals by quite a bit.
Yeah, there's some. Yeah, they Lepidoptera, which is the most famous one. It has 31, but there's dramatic variation apparently. So yes, like most insects do have dramatic variation of chromosomes because that short lifespans and they've been around for ages. Very, very, very efficient sort of phenotypes that come out there and genotypes.
27 basic kinds in a family tree. I don't have any argument. I believe that, okay? Maybe God made 27 kinds of butterflies and they have produced the 700 varieties. I don't know. Okay? In the imaginary world of planet Peterson, these variations in butterflies.
Shouldn't he know, though?
Oh, well.
Because if the whole point of his belief system is we have
Yeah.
one book with all the answers,
Yeah.
if it's not in the book, how can you possibly discover an answer to that? The science is a mechanism for generating the answers to questions. What does creationism have to offer in its place? Believe the book. Okay, what do you do if it's not in the book?
I don't
It's an
know.
oof. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, but here's the thing. Kent will agree with all the science that doesn't have a problem with his preconceived beliefs. He will just say, yes, physics fine, math's fine, computer science, fine. And not that he understands computer science or computers at all, to be honest with you. But
Yeah.
you know, I all of that's fine. But you know, because this particular field has such a clash with his religious belief, he will do anything to discount it, and that's the problem that we're getting. We're getting this. Well, they accept all the science except for what they personally don't like. Okay, you personally don't like it, but show that your belief that it came from a god is correct, and you can't.
And you're touching on
And
something
refuse to.
very important that I want to just take the opportunity to nail in while we're here. This idea that you can just disagree with science because it doesn't support your preconceived belief, that's
Right.
also expanding the idea that it's okay to just disagree with science because you don't like its conclusions. And that leads to some dangerous nonsense, like the anti-vax conspiracies that are running around.
Right.
It's
right.
people saying, I disagree with the science because I believe a thing. And Kent's behavior, even though Kent himself may not approve, I don't know how he feels about this particular conspiracy, but it's promoting the idea that you can do that, that's a legitimate way of thinking and acting within society. And it's causing these other people to do the same thing with regards to different topics and trying to disregard reality and substitute their own with potentially disastrous consequences.
Yeah, and there's other things as well, like those people in England that burned down a 5G tower, you know, that believed that 5G was this thing. Like we have stringent controls for transmission of radio frequency. You know, it's like I don't, but just because you have this belief, it doesn't make it the science wrong about it. And that's what we're seeing now, just sort of people discounting what we have struggled to discover about the world because of their personal beliefs. And that's dangerous, very dangerous.
Yeah, it's Chesterton's fence. The best idea Chesterton ever had, that when you come across a fence in your way, you want to go, you want to be able to travel freely.
Right.
People like Kent just tear down the damn fence so they can go do what they want. Chesterton says maybe you should find out why that fence is there before you knock it down.
Yeah, absolutely.
These variations in butterflies is proof that they're related to humans and frogs and sharks, and they all evolved from an amoeba. See, in his imaginary world, everything's related. Eric, tell him later on, do you believe you came from an amoeba over billions of years, and you're related to a frog and a butterfly? It's fun, boys and girls. On planet Peterson, all you have to do is imagine slow, gradual changes in the gene code and mutations. And you can change an amoeba to a human, a butterfly, and a frog. It's easy, nothing to it.
Why would you do that, though? If you're just if you're just making the shit up, why would you imagine a magical process not based in reality that you can't observe, see, or interact with? If you're going to imagine shit, if you're just going to say, let's play pretend, why wouldn't you imagine into being something with some oomph to it? Like a magical spell where you can actually turn a frog into a butterfly. That would be pretty cool.
And you know, I think that a lot more evidence for imagination is the confirmation of wishful thinking. Like the actual fallacy in logic is assuming the consequent. Assuming the consequent? I can't remember the fallacy. It's something the consequent. So it's basically saying, hey, because I want to, you know, because winning the lottery would be good, I want, you know, therefore I'm going to win the lottery. So it's much more likely that we would imagine something like, well, after I die, I go to a place that's all rainbows and lollipops and unicorns, than, you know, it's this horrible, grungy, you know, sort of fight for survival by organisms that, you know, can go extinct arbitrarily for very little reason. You know, so who's doing the wishful thinking here? Because that doesn't sound awesome. And it's not awesome. Evolution is a very painful process for the actual organisms to go through, which most species do not survive. Like 99 point something have gone extinct. Like, you know, it's not something you would want. Whereas, you know, having a magical land that you will go to after you, that's something you would want. So who is actually doing the wishful thinking?
Mm-hmm.
The butterflies, the frogs, the sunflowers, the sharks all came from an amoeba. All you have to do is imagine it happening long ago and far away where nobody can see it. So easy.
If
easy.
only there were a
In the
way
real
to
world-
test
Yeah,
to find out the
Only there
truth
was
of
some
that possibility.
evidence
I don't know.
of this happening. Yeah. But it's sort of, and this is a man that says, like Adam was in the garden and a talking snake told Eve to give him this is the thing that gets me. It's kind of like, oh, look how ridiculous and imaginary the evolution story is. Now let me tell you about this talking snake and the magic apple. Like
Uh-huh.
it's incredible to see anybody with a scientific background just see this. And what is annoying me at the moment is just how pleased with himself Kent is. He'll say something and go, and it's like, that was so unconvincing. I don't even know what to say. I don't know why you're sort of giving yourself a yeah, that was a good point. It wasn't a good point, Ken. It really wasn't. It wasn't.
Millions of hours of scientific research has led scientists to conclude there seem to be about 7,000 different recognized species of frogs, based into 23 basic kinds of frogs in the family tree. So yes, we have varieties of frogs. No question.
Yeah, and I love how like they're all going back to a common ancestor with
Mm-hmm.
lungfish and other lobe-finned fish. Whoops.
Yeah. Weird that.
Yeah. Just ignore that part, Ken. Just ignore that part, right?
In the imaginary world of planet Peterson, this variation of frogs is the world is proof they're related to cows and fish and cats. And they all lived and all life evolved, misspelling there, from an amoeba. On planet Peterson, they believe it's very important to require all people to pay to teach children at a young age about this imaginary conclusion. Very
What?
Yeah, a flat earther may say the same about a physics teacher. They're paid to teach people about imaginary gravity. His arguments are exactly the same as a flat earther's. You use your imagination for gravity, that there's some imaginary force pulling you down. That's essentially the caliber of his argument right now. It's just an appeal to his audience's incredulity. It's really bad. Like if you just insert gravity and a flat earther, it will be exactly the same argument.
Oh, for sure.
Exactly
We
the
see
same
that from all kinds of conspiracy thinking. And a lot of people don't,
Yeah.
they're like, oh, young Earth is generally harmless. In and of itself, perhaps, in the same way flat
Yeah.
Earth is. But the issue is that once you disable your own critical thinking, you become vulnerable to all the conspiracies, and suddenly you're a birther and a 9/11 truther and a transphobe and every other conspiracy you can think of, because you've disabled your ability to be rational. You have no defense.
Absolutely.
important. Everybody should pay for that. Oh, yeah. Okay. Here's the proof, boys and girls. We made a chart and drew lines connecting all of them. We know it happened because we have a chart with lines connecting all of them.
Just on a side note, I don't think we should pay for that. I think that education should be free, to be honest with you. But that's just my personal belief. So I don't think you should pay for it, Ken. I think that it should be free. But Kent's going to Kent. He's sort of making it out like he's personally, paying all of the money for this. Come on, dude. It's
and like what's his alternative? Like, okay, he likes to call it imagination. Never mind that anyone can go verify the claims and predictions made by evolutionary theory to determine that it is a demonstrable fact with literally more evidence backing it up than the law of gravity, but whatever. Never mind that. Set that aside.
Yeah.
Say we do what Kent says and we take evolution completely out of schools. What would Kent have us teach the kids when they say, how did birds become birds?
Mm-hmm.
Are we supposed to just shrug and say we don't know? And maybe hope inspire the kids to go on and become scientists to find the answers themselves, only to discover those questions actually are answered and then get mad, why weren't we taught this in school?
Well,
what are we hoping? What's the objective?
Well, I think removing evolution is just sort of phase one. You see it in Project 2025, sort of this, let's return to the Christian idealized nation that it was meant to be kind of thing, this really flawed view of what the US is supposed to be.
That's exactly it.
Yeah, I think that, while Kent's very vocal about, oh, well, I'm not asking, religion to be taught in schools. It's absolutely what he would like to see happen. It's absolutely what he would like to see happen. And it's what
for sure.
People in that
And
think tank, they want to have happen as well.
yeah, while he himself will publicly decry Christian nationalists like Steven Anderson, he's on the same team as Mr. Were You There, Ken Ham, who is an overt Christian nationalist who blatantly says to his congregation, the entire reason we're pushing back on evolution is to get the Bible into classrooms, is to teach creationism, make more people Christians, and restore this nation to the way that it should have been all along, a theocracy. This young earth business, this evolution is imaginary business. This is just the Bailey of, it's the Kent's idea of the most defensible position for the entire fucking kingdom of Christian nationalism.
See how easy that was? Nothing to it. In the real world, we see all plants and animals are always making babies like themselves, just like the Bible says, after their kind, after their kind, after their kind, after their sort. 20 times in the first 7 chapters. On planet Peterson, we don't like the use of the word kind. So we use the word species, even though there's never been a solid definition of that word.
What?
There's been multiple definitions of species, and it depends on which field and which context you're using it in. But no,
the projection!
Well,
kind never gets defined. Species has a gazillion. Yes, there's different definitions, but every creationist we've ever asked, what the fuck is a kind supposed to be? We don't get a definition. This is pure projection. He's reversing the real situation. Wow, I did not think Kent could surprise me that much.
And when we do get a definition, there's all of these cases where they don't fall into the definition. Like when I asked him, do eagles have one kind? And kind is supposed to be animals that can breed among themselves is the definition he gave. So I said, are eagles a kind? And he said, yes. And so, but the problem is that the wedge-tail eagle in Australia and the American bald eagle have different number of chromosomes. They literally cannot breed. So that violates his idea of a kind. So when they do define it, you have all of these cases where, they don't add up. And, I think Atheist Juniors was the kaibab squirrel in the Grand Canyon kind of thing, or that lives around the Grand Canyon, and another squirrel that lives there. They can't interbreed, but they're the same kind, according to Ken. So his definition fails because it doesn't accurately define what we see in the real world. Now, species, the reason why it is complicated is because if everything is all related to one another, it's going to get fuzzy, right? So it really, when we're using species, it's really an arbitrary distinction, not arbitrary and there's no reason for it. I guess that's a mislabeling, but we could put those separations really anywhere because it's all just one line of variation leading to a different species. So species is usually defined as when two types of animals get sort of genetically distinct or isolated from one another. So it's not a problem for evolution that species is a bit fuzzy. We would expect it to be. But it is a problem for you, Kent, that kind gets fuzzy because they are supposed to be individually created with no crossover. It's only a problem for you. It's not a problem for us.
Yeah, we see a lot of it's all over the place. One of my favorite examples, I think it was Viced Rhino I got it from, ring species.
Right.
Evolution predicts that such things would exist. It's for anybody who doesn't know, a ring species is a species with variations, subspecies, if you will, where two species that are next to each other on the ring can interbreed, but species across from each other on the ring cannot. So A could breed with B, B could breed with C, C could breed with D, D can breed with E, but E can't breed with A. Right. And it goes all the way around. Evolution explains them, predicts them, and so on and so forth under creationism. That doesn't work. It makes no damn sense. And John, I see your request. I do not have a whale peen I can post, but I can show you the biggest dick in my inventory.
There you go. You don't have a tapir somewhere away?
Oh, I
that you can
do.
show?
I do.
Oh,
Where's
okay.
there's half of
the
it.
tapir.
Anyway, yes. Yeah.
There's the tapir.
That's right.
You know,
We're gonna
not
ride
just-
around on them like North American Jesus.
Woohoo!
Yes.
This tonight's going to be a real challenge for Eric to explain, win the debate with the title, with the origin of species. What exactly is a species? Defined as a group of organisms that can reproduce naturally. However,
Yeah, that's one definition. Yeah. Classification.
Did he just say there's no definition?
Look, he's not wrong that there's it's fuzzy and species. We haven't absolutely clearly defined what a species is. He's not wrong. It's just with a long line of variation within species, and when that becomes a new species, we expect it to be muddled. What we don't expect is two creatures of the same kind completely unable to interbreed with one another. That's what we don't expect, because you're saying that was created as is and all in one kind of thing. So,
classification of a species can be difficult, even riddled with controversy. Species. What is a species? It's a kind. Wow, look at that.
That's a synonym, Kent. That's a synonym. Do you know what a synonym is?
Not Kent Hovind not knowing how dictionaries work.
Wow. Or thesaurus works.
Homonym are synonyms for species. A kind. Synonyms. A kind. Look at that. Wow. Okay.
Now we have true circularity, right? Because
Yeah.
he's claiming that species has no definition. He looks up the definition and it includes kind. Kind, on the other hand, he says is very precise and clear. So
Right.
species is kind, according to Kent. It's wow.
But that doesn't work, because species. If the reason why they don't say species is kind is because they could never fit the amount of species on the ark. That's why. That there is no possible way. Like, how many species are there in the world? It's got to be millions and millions, right? Like,
Oh yeah.
Just leaving aside insects, which have so many species, it's ridiculous. Just the mammals, there's so many species of animal. So
Yeah, and it gets so wild. Like, okay, so I have my own personal challenge pertaining to the Noah's Ark story from back when I was on Aaron's Blasphemer's Bible, when we went through
Yes.
Exodus. There's that one passage where they say, there'll be 2 of every kind, and then the other passage where it's 2 of every kind, except 7 of
The
every
clean
kind of the
animals,
clean species. I'm like, hold on, wait a second. It wasn't until Moses when Yahweh handed down the list of the clean kinds. So how the fuck did Noah know, way before Moses, how many of which critter to put on the boat? It's almost like that story was made up after the Moses story. I don't know. Maybe I'm silly, but I've been asking
I don't think
literally
so.
for a year.
Yeah.
How do creationists explain that? How do you get around that issue? How do you determine? And also, the list of clean and unclean animals includes sea creatures. So did Noah have to put the sea creatures on the boat? If there are unclean sea creatures that are tainted by sin, what did the
Like
flood
shellfish.
do? Like, I have so many questions. And
Yeah.
there's a thing, I forget if it's this debate or the other one about the geologic column, but Kent brings up, he actually debunks the entire flood accidentally by mentioning that creatures could survive a flood by floating on the wood of the uprooted trees from the cataclysm. So even non-swimmy creatures could have survived the flood, according to Kent. So it's completely fucking useless.
Yeah, and it kind of says that it killed everything that crawls upon the land. So that sort of the Bible debunks that idea if you're going to go with the Bible is correct about it, because it was supposed to have killed everything that crawls. I believe it's everything that crawls upon the land.
With the breath of life within its nostrils is how
Yeah.
it phrases it.
Mhm.
Yeah. Insects notoriously
Dictionary,
don't breathe.
No, obviously not. No. They just photosynthesize. Apparently, I don't know how that works.
Definition of species: group of organisms that share a common genetic heritage, able to interbreed. That's what the Bible says they can bring forth.
Does
create
the
offspring
Bible
that
say
also-
that? Where does it say genetic heritage in this thing?
Yeah.
I've been reading this wrong this whole time. Robin, the copy you sent me is defective. It doesn't mention genetic heritage anywhere in this damn thing. It's a mutation.
I don't understand that. I don't understand how he's saying species is equivalent to kind, because most theists will not make that assertion. They'll say that maybe it's family or even genus if they're feeling particularly racy, but definitely not species because of the problems it causes for the Ark story. This is dangerous by Kent, because next time he's in an Ark debate, well, you say species are kinds. How many species do we have?
I think we need a bigger boat.
I think we do.
Fertile. Mhm. Barriers do not allow for reproduction between two populations. Scientists have changed the definition of species several times throughout history. Which one are you going to use tonight, Eric? What is a species, according to Scientific American? To this day, scientists struggle with that question. The debate over species definition is far from over.
Mhm.
What exactly is a species?
Yeah.
An embarrassment of definition may come as a surprise to see scientists struggling to agree on something so basic as how to decide that a group of organisms form a species.
Well, the problem is also that we're trying to sort of we had Lamarckian sort of categorizations, this kingdom file, the list that you've got all the way down to species, and we're trying to get clades into that. It's very, very messy, but that's exactly what you'd expect. It's kind of just a well, this has got multiple definitions, and it's a bit fuzzy, therefore it can't be true. Why? When that's exactly what we would expect if everything is related. Why would we expect differently? I don't understand.
It's wild how sometimes there's so much nuance we can't believe anything you have to say, and then other times there's lots of occasions where theologues and people want very simple definitions about what they claim are very simple topics, but if you provide them with one, then suddenly they break out the nuance. And I'm not going to go into those subtopics right now because that's a whole other show. But this kind of bullshit comes up a lot.
Oh, John says he wants to do one sometime. Maybe we can do one of your debates, John.
That's an idea.
That would be a really cool idea, because we've sort of got a policy that if somebody's in the debate, yeah, we usually have them on if we do know them and can beg and plead.
Yeah, like we brought Grayson on
Grayson,
for Grayson's debate for sure.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
John has some
absolutely.
fun one. Well, honestly, I haven't seen any. John used to do a bunch of debates back in the day on MDD. Gotten away from it. But
John's got one where Kent mentioned the whale penis.
Awesome.
I'm there. I'm 100% there. I'm on board. I've never been more ready in my life. Like, seriously, yeah, absolutely, we should do that. Absolutely, I would love to dissect that. I'd love to dissect a whale penis. Absolutely. Let's do it. Sounds
Hell
good.
yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Perhaps 1.8 million species that scientists have named in the past few centuries, like the laws of endangered species, that can affect everything.
What are the laws of endangered species?
Does he mean the legal laws? Like you can't hunt bald eagles because their population's too low? Which incidentally has been withdrawn from bald eagles. They're kind of becoming a bit of a pest in some parts of the US now.
Right. Endangered Species Act. Okay, so he's saying that because in laws, they've got endangered species, that we're not allowed to have endangered species laws because we don't know exactly what a species is. I, I, I'm not sure conservation acts really have a problem with them, but whatever.
Yeah.
What a species is, how do you know one's in danger? It's fueled a debate for decades. There is no general agreement.
Oh, and welcome. It was
that's
Eric, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah, I was keeping an eye out. I knew you were coming, but it's a pleasure to meet you. Welcome to the reading room, as I call it, the wild west that we're in right now. Yeah, and I do apologize. If I'd known you were interested in coming, I would have sent you something. I think that's more of an oversight on my part, but I do apologize. First, I want to say what a fantastic performance! Like absolutely wonderful. I really enjoyed it. And you and Ember have met before?
Not exactly. Bridge the Divide covered, I think it was this debate, but it may have been the other one. And Eric was in the chat at the same time I was in the chat. Mostly, I just leave comments on Eric's videos because they're really enjoyable.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I do want to share the link to your channel is in the description if anyone's interested, and I will link in the chat, or probably Pragmatic Crystal will probably beat me to it, because that's what happens around here. But first off, how did you feel about the debate?
Oh, I thought it basically went almost perfectly. I take it you watched the whole thing already.
Yes.
The funniest thing that people keep saying and was true was everything I said in my opening statement comes completely true from Kent. I just absolutely everything. It was really funny.
Prophecy.
The only thing, and I just debated him 2-3 days ago on Wednesday too. The only thing I wish I would have done a little bit differently is when I cross-examined him, I let him ramble too much. I did kind of stop him, but I did a way better job the second time, because I would ask him a question about like the secular model, and he would start talking about whatever the bullshit he believes in. And the second time I made sure to be like, Kent, I didn't ask for an alternative explanation. Let's talk about the whatever. So
yeah, I think you must have done not and I don't know if incredible, but at least a significant amount of prep for this, because you knew exactly what was coming, and you seem to have some sort of plan.
Not really. I mean, so
Okay.
I read his entire doctoral thesis statement, and I've seen his performances before. Yeah, me too, a little bit. So I mean, I knew like how I predicted what his arguments would be and all of that. But as far as like prepping for the debate, I just said in my head, I'm just going to set out and ask questions specifically designed to prove that intelligent design can't explain anything. It's just a post hoc rationalization. And honestly, I wrote all the questions I was going to ask him a month before the debate, and then didn't look at it again until like the day before. I was like, oh yeah, we're doing this, aren't we? So I went back through it just to take another look at it. But
yeah,
no, it was
well, I want to say, like, sort of bringing up Kent on his waffling. Kent is, I mean, his arguments are silly, but we all acknowledge just how slippery he is. Like, he really does weasel in and out of things. He really does have this way of trying to escape, and he has. I've done more than one sort of analysis of his debate tactics, and a lot of the time he will say things that make people mad. He'll try to trigger them. And my advice to people debating him is don't chase that rabbit down the hole, because he's just trying to get you away from a good point that you're making. And you didn't seem to take the bait. You're sort of, we're not talking about that. We're talking about this. And I want to really acknowledge just how important that is, that you didn't chase him on this. At one part you said, oh, this isn't even worth talking about. And you're right. And he's trying to get you away from the point that you're making. And I thought that was so well done, because, that's his tactics.
Yeah, I have a huge admiration and respect for people like Professor Dave and Aaron Ra, but like when they talked to him, they took that bait, and it was, I think people think they are smart enough and quick-witted enough to rapid fire shut down or shout down every single thing he says in rapid succession, but that makes for a god awful debate
Right.
performance, or just like as a thing to watch. Technically they did very well, but it's so awful, and it doesn't really come off as you like dominating the debate. It just kind of
Yes.
looks like you're playing ping pong with the person. So I was like, I'm absolutely not going to do that. And that's how I operate with my normal debates that I do, like on TikTok, that I upload to YouTube.
Right. Doc Dino, thank you so much. $2. Was fun helping you prep for your Geo debate. Oh yeah, our very own Doc Dino, who's a real friend of the channel. Thank you so much, Doc. And I haven't seen that one, but I definitely will watch it, Eric. I guarantee you, because I was really, I really enjoyed watching this one. I am a bit of a weird duck, and I really do like seeing debates, especially where someone like Kent gets absolutely shot down. But I'm going to start the video again. Please just speak up if you do want to say something. More than happy to have you, stay for as long as you want. More than happy to. We usually miss the questions at the end. Usually there's not a whole heap of stuff. It's usually just Donnie's audience sort of going, oh, how do you explain this kind of thing? So I just, we usually don't do that. But hey, hang around.
Chat, yeah. There's actually some pretty funny moments in the super chat section.
It's okay, true. Well, there's one of the super chats is another. I forget exactly what he says, but I remember thinking when Kent answered the super chat, he had debunked himself again. Like he said something completely contradictory to everything that he always says.
Yeah, I can't imagine. Wow.
No, that never happens.
Never happens. Yeah.
Marshall, let's see, Jonathan Marshall, biologist at University of Utah, Southern Utah University. At last count, there are 26 published circulation concepts of species. What's a species? 26 different ones. Huh? Charles Darwin was amused by all the struggles. It's really laughable to see what different ideas are prominent in various naturalist minds when they speak of species. He wrote in 1856, when it all comes, I believe, from trying to define the indefinable. Can't be defined. Huh? So Charlie Darwin said, even though the title of his book is The Origin of Species.
I love how he misses out in the next section. Species, Darwin argued, were not fixed since creation. They had evolved.
That's the rule, right? I'm pretty sure there's a technical name for it, but I've never heard what it is. Where with creationists, whenever you hear a quote from any source, just go look at what the next sentence is, and it will usually explain how they've just taken it out of context. And Kent is kind enough to show us the next sentence in his own slide.
Yeah, but dishonest enough to highlight only the part he wants his people to read. We would expect there to be confusion if everything stems from a common ancestor and has been evolving. That's the whole point.
He didn't even know what one is either, what species is either, okay? Meanwhile, other varieties become extinct. I look at the term species as one arbitrarily given for the sake of convenience to a set of individuals closely resembling each other, Darwin declared. Defining a species, evolution.berserkly, okay? Species is a group of individuals that actually or potentially interbreed. What is what the Bible says? They can bring forth. That would be interbreeding, okay? Let's see. Definition of species might seem cut and dried, but it's not. In nature, there are lots of places where it's difficult to apply this definition. Let's see. Many plants and animals form hybrids. Is the hooded crow and the carrion crow the same species? And the birds don't care how we classify them. They do not even think about it, okay? A set of animals or plants in which members have similar characteristics and can breed with each other. At Dinosaur Adventureland here in Lennox, we keep our sheep, donkeys, zebu, cows, and horses all together in the same pasture. We have never gotten a zeep, a zonkey, a heap, a how, or a shibu. They know what kind they are.
That's fantastic. What point is Kent trying to make here? Like, he is so far off saying, science doesn't understand species. Great. That's a one sentence point. Is he just burning the clock because he has nothing to say?
He spends over half of his opening statement on, well, nobody knows what a species is, and an amoeba can't become a non-amoeba. And then in the cross-examination, he asked me what a species is. I gave him a good answer, and he completely walked away from it. So, like, I don't know if he just thought the whole thing was going to hinge on this gotcha that he was trying to set up, but it failed spectacularly. So almost his entire opening statement was rendered completely pointless.
Well, I've noticed with Kent that a lot of his arguments are just appeals to incredulity. So, we all see the conflations he makes trying to exacerbate that incredulity. You think a butterfly came from a strawberry or something, whatever he says. When he asks a question, he gets a answer that is not something that sounds incredulous, some reasonable answer. He kind of doesn't even approach it because he doesn't want it to be framed in that way. He doesn't want reasonable answers. He wants to frame it as, how can you believe a strawberry comes through? Ridiculous.
Well, no interest in mating with any other kind.
That was fun.
They know.
I don't know. I know a few dogs that are interested in mating with human legs. Does that count?
It happens. Also, it just struck me, the definition of species, according to Kent, is the ability to bring forth after their kind. So only members of a species capable of carrying the young and live young, I would suppose, though possibly, eggs would count too.
I'd assume so.
Yeah, it's only the hens, not the roosters, because the roosters don't bring forth. They're not members of the species. I don't know. Maybe I'm reaching too far. It just strikes me as
weird. I think that's semantics, to be honest with you. I think you're sort of getting.
Well, it's sort of what Kent is doing, right? Like he's
sure.
The definition of species. He wants a single, simple definition. He's doing the Matt Walsh bullshit. But all definitions are, as you said earlier, they're descriptive. It's just intended to relate a concept. Wanting a single, simple, arbitrary definition defeats the entire point. But Kent's entire argument is that there isn't one. It's purely word games, as Uncle Bobby would say.
Oh, that's true.
Oh, see, species. Stanford Encyclopedia. The nature of species is controversial in biology. Biologists disagree on the definition of the term species. Philosophers disagree over the ontological status of species. What is a biological species? First glance, it seems easy to answer. Homo sapien is a species. So is Canis familiaris, dog. Many species can be easily distinguished. Biologists offer over 20 definitions of the term species. Britannica. There are over 20 different species concepts. What is a species? The most important concept in all biology is a complete mystery.
Is it, though?
Yeah, it's not. It's not a complete mystery. That's just hyperbole from a magazine. They're just trying to sell magazines. That's just
clickbait.
Sort of. Basically, yeah. But, that kind of thing doesn't worry Kent. He'll take that as, the scientific consensus, even though it's probably just from an article somebody wrote, on science.
Koala bear isn't a bear. It's a marsupial.
Is that a good point? Like, why? That's not. Of course, a koala bear is a marsupial. What are you talking about? I'd love for his.
I don't think he actually prepared like a real opening statement because he's done that a couple times. Like one of the very first things he was reading, he goes, "Oh, interesting." Like he didn't know what he. I don't remember if it was this debate or the other one, but he read something. And then he realized, oh shit, I shouldn't have read that. And he kind of did the same. He did kind of the same thing.
Wow.
Pretty sad.
But I'd love for him to explain why, in his sort of worldview, that marsupials are kind of limited to mostly Australia. Like, does he even try to explain biodiversity, which is a better question than, a koala bear isn't really a bear? Yeah, no shit. We just called it that. I don't understand.
A palm tree isn't really a tree. We just call things.
Yeah, Indians from North America are not actually from India. We just called them that because reasons.
Basic idea is very simple. The certain groups of organisms have a special connection to each other. So, what even is a species? The truth is, we don't have any idea. The Bible says kind. So, what's a kind? Well, if they can bring forth, I'd say it's probably similar to species in most cases, but it doesn't matter. The animals know. Okay. A group of living organisms.
What? He just makes this whole big deal about species. And when he finally gets around to the key question that we've all been wondering for literal decades, what is a kind? He just shrugs and says it doesn't matter.
Yep.
Fuck me sideways.
Yep. It matters for you, but it doesn't matter for me. Because the animals know. Well, do you want to get them to do the classification trees for us?
Let's get them to draw the lines on paper. Some of them could, I'm sure.
Right.
Yeah.
Maybe get the elephants to do it. They're pretty good at that.
Similar individuals capable of exchanging genes and interbreeding. That's fair, reasonable. The dog cannot interbreed with the cat or the cow or the pine tree. So what's the definition of species? Look at that. kind. The second one over there, a kind or a sort. Wow. They're using that to define species. Defining species. Group of
What
Yeah, but I
source
love
was
how
that?
that I don't know, just some random
It looks like Google search results because it's got that
It kind of
similar
does.
underneath kind of thing. It's got the pictures up there. Like, has Kent decided that Google's AI generative response is all of science?
Do you
but it-
notice how it sounds like he's reading this for the first time, though? Like I was saying a little bit ago. Oh, wow.
Well,
look at this.
I think that's just what he does. And if you listen to him and he's like trying to find a slide, he kind of mentions he has like thousands of these slides in no particular order, apparently. So he very well could have not seen this for decades. It doesn't matter to him that his information's up to date or anything like that. But do you see the example? It says for a kind or sort, a species of invective at once tough and suave. It's kind of a metaphorical use of species. It's not a scientific use of the word. It's kind of just a colloquial use of the word. That doesn't matter to Kent. He'll use that as a definition, even though that's not a scientific definition. He doesn't care. He really doesn't care if he's misrepresenting the truth. And, we see this all the time from the man.
a kind or a sort. Wow. They're using that to define species. Defining species. Group of individuals that actually or potentially interbreed. Berserkley says, understanding evolution, that's the definition right there, okay? While this system of classification has existed for 300 years, it's constantly evolving. They're still changing it. A radical shift in the grouping of organisms occurred with the development of DNA.
Wait. He's complaining about science evolving as our knowledge improves. But
Yeah.
Kent's beliefs have also evolved. Like,
Have they?
Dapper Dinosaur shows old Kent videos from time to time, his Kent with Bent series. And in the older videos, Kent goes on rants about how unhinged the seculars are for thinking global warming is real. He doesn't rant about that anymore, at least not that I've seen.
But does he believe in global warming? I have no idea.
It's not part of his spiel anymore because it's evolved. His ideas have changed, or at least the way he presents his ideas have changed.
I think his tactics may have changed, but I'm not sure his ideas have. I'm not sure he's going around telling everybody that global warming is real. I think it may be just prudent of him not to do it. At the end of the day, Kent will say whatever he needs to for money. I don't know. You could be right.
It's wild. It's so wild.
$2 from Mark Chess Discord. Oh, thank you, Robin, but I'm so sorry. Check Discord. Why? What you got? He asked if you want to do a Skep Talk. Yeah, no, I'm down. I'm absolutely down. Very happy to do so. I'll send you a message. Absolutely. I am absolutely down.
You heard it here first,
Robin.
folks.
Really appreciate it.
Mark's doing another Skep Talk. Possibly in November.
Possibly. I don't know.
Yeah.
That would be amazing, though. Awesome.
Change them around, okay? Doesn't make any sense to abandon the idea that they bring forth after the kind. In New Zealand, there are projects about the kiwi and the Tatara DNA revolutionized the way we think, and their closest relatives. You think that humans are related to a banana because of similar DNA? And be careful about that word.
Yes.
Okay. On our current classification system, 2024, there are still disputes about how plants and animals should be classified. It doesn't matter.
20 seconds left.
They know what kind they are, and they seek to mate with their own kind. They don't care how we group them. Our cows show no interest in mating with the sheep or donkeys or squirrels. They don't even know what they look like, but they
Is
know what to
Kent
look for.
sure about that?
So on planet Peterson, we have no.
I grew up on a farm, as many longtime viewers know. Many animals will try to reproduce with anything else remotely the right shape and size.
Yeah. Yeah, I kind of agree with that.
Rules, boys and girls. You can do what you want, be what you want. You can be a boy one day and a girl the next, or even explore all 57 genders. You can even have fun mating with your dog if you want. There are no rules.
See, this is just crass and absolutely disgusting. This is about evolution, not about any kind of morality. It's not about the trans LGBTQI. But, Kent is a disgusting person. He has
he's just hateful. He just throws blatant bigotry out there and just boop, whatever. For the record, You absolutely can be all 57 genders at the same time just to piss off Kent. I encourage that.
Yeah, that would be great. Actually, I might do that just to annoy the man. Look, and here's the thing. The worst is what he did to AJ, Atheist Jr. He absolutely just brought up his sexual identity and his sexual preferences just to hassle him in the debate. He's a disgusting person. You know, it's disgusting. And I loved what you did to him, Eric. I thoroughly approve, quite frankly. And the weird part is that he doesn't hassle me when I debate him. He doesn't bring up that stuff. I don't know if he can find anything that he finds questionable about me or something. I don't know, but it annoys me. He's a bully. He's 100% a bully. It annoys me.
This is Planet Peterson we're talking about tonight. All right, go for it.
All right, Kent, thank you for that 10-minute opening statement. Gentlemen, that concludes our opening statements for tonight's great common dissent debate. We've got now plenty of points on the table to engage and interact with in a cross-examination, 20 minutes each. And so, Eric, we're going to hand it over to you. I'll restart the timer. And again, we are into a couple rounds of cross-examination. So, Eric, kick us off. Go ahead.
Eric, was this, how did you get him to A, agree to a cross-examination, and B, get him to agree to look, because I've asked for creationism versus evolution to him before, and he's gone, no, absolutely not. How did you get him to agree to that? And can I have your magic power?
The whole thing was done through Donnie. Kent never contacted me. I've never sent an email to Kent or anything like that.
Yes.
I don't remember. I reached out to Donnie because I saw a live stream Kent did on his channel about Kent said that the fact that the sun loses mass means that the Earth can't be billions of years old because the sun would have swallowed up the Earth. And I did the math, and after you have to wait 100 billion years for the sun to lose 1% of its mass. I was like, I would love to debate Kent on. I basically said I saw a recent debate you had with Kent, and I'd like to debate him. And so Donnie kind of threw out, oh, well, we could do evolution, creation, the fossil record, whatever you want. And so it just kind of got set up for we tentatively scheduled two of them. But that was in terms of deliberate planning, that was the one thing I said, we're going to do a cross-examination because like I said, I've seen debates, countless modern day debates. And when Dave and Kent went at it, when Aaron and Kent went at it, and it's just, what about blank? Oh yeah. Well, what about blank? Oh yeah. Well, what about, but it just turns into that over and over again. So I said, we're going to do cross-examination, and he has to, and you can't ask questions during, is this my video? Did you see the very beginning of it?
Yes.
When he said awesome. They do that a lot in court, and I said you would know.
That was perfect. By the way you cut right after that to do your intro, fucking magnificent.
Yeah. So that's why and for our second debate, it was the same thing, and it was so much worse for him the second debate. I actually didn't do as well the second debate, but he did so much worse that it was.
So you did funny. Better by comparison, basically.
Basically.
Awesome. Yeah. No, as I said before, I've tried to sort of make inferences that can answers questions like in a court or something, and tried to bring it in there. But I love that you had that clip, and I'm so glad you included it. It's actually hilarious. Very hilarious.
Before I do that, the moral grandstanding at the end there. So tax cheats, wife beaters, and people that let convicted child molesters share a cabin with 11-year-old boys at their park don't get to morally grandstand.
I knew he'd do that, Don. He can't.
Wild. Imagine saying all that shit about a whole group of people and then getting mad when somebody fires back. Oh, he's attacking me, though. Fucking
and
victim.
All of those are facts. All of them are facts. He let somebody with a criminal record in abusing children stay at his park, and the child was abused. He did that. All of that is on record. He was a tax evader. That is on record. He was convicted for domestic abuse. That is on record. Nothing of what Eric said there is actually not fact. It actually is. And the fact that he attacks Eric and goes, oh, you've got imagination and you're this and you're that and you're the other, as soon as This is a thing I've noticed, Eric, if you're unfamiliar with Hovind, when he says we won't do this, like, you know, we don't, like, he'll demand, oh, we only talk about one question at a time. He's not talking about himself. He's talking about you. So when sort of he says, oh, well, let's not attack each other personally, he's not actually talking about him. That's the thing. That is the crazy thing about it. So he'll get you to agree to these rules and then break what he's agreed to almost instantly. It's actually incredible, which is why I'm amazed that he didn't ask more questions in your cross exam, because while he might agree to it, I don't think he intends to keep his word. But that was really good. Yeah, absolutely. We've got a super chat by Doc Dino. Thank you so much, Doc, for $5. Eric, I think you start off weaker in your second debate, but by the end you were slinging him around by the throat. Good job. Yeah, no, I've got to see that. I've absolutely got to see that.
Do anything else? Go ahead.
Okay, Eric and Kent, you both got your points in there. So let's now get right into cross-exam on the topic of common descent. Go ahead.
Okay. So you talked about the cows earlier, Kent. How do you know that those cows are related? You had like a cow family tree. How do you tell that?
Oh, the burden of proof's not on me to have to prove it at all. I believe they are. I admit mine's a religion. You will not admit yours is a religion. You believe cows are related to butterflies.
So the question was, how do you tell that the cows are related?
I don't have to tell. I think they all look the same in the meat locker. It's a skin color. I think all
no,
human history.
We can scientifically test to what degree things are related. And I know that you know how to do that. So how do you tell?
I don't worry about it. I think cows always make cows. All farmers in history and all around the world will tell you cows always have baby cows. They've now developed certain varieties, more milk or more beef or stand the heat better, but they're all still cow. And there seems to be a distinct limit.
So somebody, you know, the Maury Povich show where they used to do, you are the mother or you are not the father, so on and so forth.
I don't think I've ever watched that, but go on.
I'm not familiar with that as well. I presume it's some kind of parental, you know, DNA testing.
Yeah, it's a meme.
It's like the Maury Povich show was like Oprah for white trash people and stuff like that. And so there are these, it's comedy gold, but there's all these moments where, you know, somebody comes in and there's a paternal dispute or maternal dispute. And he does these, you are not the father. And then people go crazy. That's what.
So is it kind of like Jerry Springer kind of deal?
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
Okay.
We've heard about it before, haven't you?
Maury Povich, something. Yeah. Okay.
Okay. So, like for people, how do you do a paternity test? How do you tell?
I've never done that either. I have 3 children. I know they're mine. And
I'm not asking if you have done it. I'm just saying conceptually, how is that done?
The evasiveness.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And this is what we mean. Like, I'm really impressed because Kent, like, as much as he's a terrible debater, he is slippery to try and pin down. So I'm loving the way you're actually pinning him down and saying, no, don't answer this other question. Answer the one that I asked. You know,
I said this. I had a podcast earlier today, and we talked about this. And I said, Kent is a horrible debater, but he's really good at not debating.
Oh yeah, I know exactly what you mean.
Fair.
Absolutely.
Well, today it's probably one of the main tools they would use would be DNA analysis to see you have the same DNA code as the child or the father or the mother.
Yep. And I mean, all humans share basically the same genetic code. But you can tell who's more related, you can tell like this person is or is not your child, even though we're all humans, right? So it would be the exact same story with the cows, right? I know that you know that.
I know what you want me to say. It's correct. We have a lot of DNA similarities between all the different animals because the same designer must have written that code. All 4,000 books in my library probably have the same basic code, 26 letters of an English alphabet. It doesn't prove any relationship. This is very different than a paternity test from Maury Pervert or whatever his name was.
Genes. So genetics only tells you if things are related. So I have a question. What would be the only way it would be possible for 2 cows to not be related at all, to have zero relationship?
No, I don't care. I don't think they care either, but I don't know.
Do you agree that the only... Oh, sorry. Do you agree that the...
I don't know. Yeah.
I got it. Do you agree that the only way it would be possible is if they share 0 genes?
I'd have to think about that one. I don't know. I never thought about that. I don't worry about that kind of stuff. But
well, parents pass on genes, and their children share a collection of their genes from their parents. So if 2 brothers are related, it's because their parents passed down genes, and you can tell that they have an overlap of those genes. That makes sense, right?
Well, as far as I know, that is pretty reliable. I think there's so many identical genes in all humans, that may have gone back to Adam and Eve or to Noah. Sure, we probably have some similarity. There might even be some similar code in our DNA to the code of a monkey because they all have to have the same lines of code to grasp their fingers or blink their eyes or listen. So there may be lines of code because that's a necessary feature from a design.
That's
there's
not
a blinking
necessary, though.
code.
Yes, absolutely. A lot of these are emergent properties.
So little, yeah.
But also we know from homologous structures that's not how that works, right? Like
Right.
the genes that code for bat wings are different from the genes that code for butterfly wings, and how the flapping muscles are formed and all this sorts of stuff. There isn't, if there were a designer copy and pasting code like a programmer, then we'd see the same lines of code for the same things, but we don't, because that's not what happened.
Well, we also know the code is different for octopus eyeballs than human eyeballs, because the octopus ones actually are different. Ours are wired backwards. They're basically, they've got a blind spot underneath. The octopus doesn't have that problem because it's sort of a different kind of eyes are sort of parallel evolution. They've come up multiple times. So we kind of, it's kind of weird what he's saying. And it kind of shows not only a misunderstanding of genetics, but a misunderstanding of software as well. Like, yeah, the Microsoft may use the same dictionary, but it doesn't mean every single line of code is similar. And, when he says, oh, the same person probably wrote the code, no, it was probably a bunch of people. I don't know why you'd think.
Yeah, that would have been a good line of questioning for him. Why did the designer design the same feature with completely different code? That actually, and there is no answer for every single thing he said. I don't know. I'll see the video one day when I die and shit like that. So
yeah,
perspective. So it's not the only way to prove there's relationship. There's where I think you're way off base. A different planet.
Okay, so would you agree that if two things share 0 genes, then they can't be related?
I don't know that could be proven. Doesn't matter to me.
You could just sequence their DNA. We do that kind of thing all the time.
sure.
Would you understand how complex the DNA is? You got a code that goes from here across the solar system twice from one human being. That's a DNA code for.
Yeah.
He did this
It's
multiple
kind of
times.
Yeah, it's just an appeal to complexity, just like an appeal to large numbers by a flat earther. And like, oh, you think the Earth is?
He's actually not even developing his argument. He's just saying things that has nothing to do with whether or not a genetic test is valid or anything like that. Just to say that it's complicated. Like, is Earth round? Oh, the diameter of Earth is so big. Is
exactly.
it round? It's just it's in space.
But he's
Is
already
it round. You idiot.
Yeah, that's the question. But he's already acknowledged that we can do paternity tests, and the gene is just as large as some other gene in the animal kingdom. So why does that matter? It doesn't.
One person. I don't think we can sequence all that. I don't think it's ever been all sequenced. All they're finding is the CAT.
It has.
We have, though. The Human Genome Project is a thing.
Yeah,
we've sequenced many individual humans at this point.
Yeah, I think we've also sequenced the chimpanzee as well. Haven't we sequenced most of the chimpanzee genome, I think?
So we did 2 projects with the chimps, and Erica from Guts at Gibbon would be the expert on this one. But from watching a bunch of Erica's videos, I feel okay to say that we did the first sequencing based on the differences between chimps and humans. So we only looked at the areas that were different, because the rest is the same. But then we said, no, that's not good enough. And we at least started a full sequence. I don't know if it's finished yet.
Yeah, it might be incomplete. It may be incomplete from memory, but we've definitely started it. So I don't know what his point is here. I really don't.
Serious?
Genes get sequenced all the time. Like, let's not pretend that scientists don't know what they're doing and that you and I somehow know better. So if 2 things have 0 genes in common, they can't be related. That's just, I don't see how there's any getting around that.
Well, that's a statement you're making. I said I don't know. It's not something I've gotten into the study of. But I think like just their sentence sequencing in all my books might have all the adjectives before the noun. That's common. It was a big red train. Adjectives come before the noun. Well, wow. Does that prove they're related to some other one that says, you know, the big blue cheese?
I don't see how that's got anything to do with genetics. You know, like this is sort of the conflation. It'll also go to, you know, Jeeps and cars and all kinds of stuff. Like why this has got anything to do with evolution is beyond me. You know, language and structure of language has nothing to do with it. Ridiculous.
No.
Yeah.
It's a sequence that's necessary for English language.
Right.
Maybe there's a DNA code that's necessary to make things work.
But if
So I
there was
don't
a
know that it proves relationship, you don't either.
But if there was a language that shared literally 0 words or anything in common with English, we would not say that those 2 languages are related.
I don't think languages are related at all. It has to do with reproduction. I think related would be.
You don't think that
So I want to point out what he's done here. He's made an analogy that like genetic coding is like a language like English, and we can tell if it's related. So Eric's done a really fantastic thing, which is play out the analogy, take it to its logical conclusion. If there's shares no words and no letters and there's nothing shared, then it's not related. And then Kent goes, well, I think that only applies to organisms and genetics. It's his analogy. I don't, you know, he's the one that made that analogy, which I think is a bad analogy, but he's the one leaning on it. So this is so dishonest. You know, it's sort of like, well, here's this analogy. Oh, it doesn't work. No, that's not analogous. It's absolutely baffling to me. I don't understand.
Portuguese and Spanish are, by related, we mean that they're part of a language family.
I think you'd find thousands of identical words and very similar words in Portuguese and Spanish, certainly.
Yeah, because they come from common descent. But if 2 languages share literally nothing at all in common, then we would know that they would have there's 0 relation between them.
So you're using an example of things that do not reproduce. You guys
languages reproduce.
Languages reproduce. Yeah. I'd like to see how that happens. I taught biology for years. I don't believe that at all. Okay.
So that's fun for a couple of different reasons. First of all, creationists are constantly trying to invoke things that don't reproduce, like cars, as a case for their argument. The second is we do see that with languages. In fact, we see evolution within languages. You know, look at English, modern English versus Shakespeare's English versus Beowulf English. There's clearly been some changes over the years. Yep. But also, according to Ken's mythology, God created all the languages when he did the Tower of Babel incident.
That is true. Tower of Babel created all the languages separately. So is Kent acknowledging that all languages are sort of related to one another? I don't know.
I think that's what he's driving at. It's pretty fun.
That's really strange.
Okay. I think humans have to change them. So you guys get after me when I say Fords and Chevys have round tires. I say they don't reproduce. Well, neither do languages, Eric. Why are you using that as an example?
Well, they kind of do. Like they're kind of, you know, people reproduce and they teach their offspring the language, and then it has variation kind of thing. Like if someone has parents that speak 2 different languages and they only live with one, they're going to learn whatever language they have. So kind of a little bit, I guess. A little bit.
Yeah,
I get what
well,
you're saying,
I mean,
Eric.
a language, the only way a word gets replicated is by that word being spoken. So you can say the human is the vessel of reproduction, but the human is the vessel of the sperm and the egg. An egg is just a chicken's way of making another egg. So words reproduce so much like life reproduces, and languages evolve in so much the same way, because the individual unit of language could be the word sound or the diphthong or whatever, and micro changes in it, which happen generation after generation. But you go back hundreds of years, like Ember was saying, and you can't even talk to somebody who is speaking English. So the language analogies are actually fantastic.
Love
and I want to just add, he was the one that brought up languages.
Right. Yeah.
So,
also true. It's not your turn to ask questions, but write that down for later. So
you don't want to answer it. I see.
It's not your turn to answer questions. Those are the rules we agreed with. And you're actually not answering any questions right now, which is kind of frustrating. You've just basically been saying, I don't know. I think it's because you know where this is going. Everybody who knows how to think knows that the only way to have 0 relation is to share 0 genes. But the fact is, humans share genes with other organisms. So why is that the case if we're not related to other things?
I did answer that question, Your Honor. We can share genes because we have the common designer, because we have the common necessary functions, grasping your fingers together like monkeys do and humans do. That doesn't necessarily prove relationship. It could prove a common set of gene code to make the flexor muscles and extender muscles work to close the phalanges. So I think you're coming to the single conclusion. You're wanting a single conclusion. And I think there may be other things to explore. I would look at that more carefully if I was you.
So I didn't ask you any questions about like being able to move your fingers. You're obviously dodging this, and that's fine. We're just talking about genetics.
You asked about a
So
DNA code. There's a DNA code to make you flex your fingers. Isn't there?
I wouldn't say that there's a DNA code for doing this. DNA guides the development of muscles, but to say there's a DNA code that does this, I don't know what that could possibly mean.
Okay.
Like we talk, but there's no gene for saying the word balloon. But anyways, I have a lot more questions. So,
okay.
I love how you shut him down. You know, he's obviously trying to go off on, he's trying to make the argument about whether you have gene code for, you know, making a certain thing with your fingers, and absolutely shut down. I love it. Awesome.
Denied.
If you think that the gene overlap is because of common design, then why did God design us in a way that's indistinguishable from the evidence of evolution, i.e. that we would share genes? Because we know that passing on genes conveys relatedness between things.
I don't know that we know such a thing. You're making a statement, an assertion that I don't think has been demonstrated. I think
you agreed to it, paternity tests and all that kind of stuff. That's exactly what that
paternity
does.
tests are usually pretty accurate, to my knowledge, to determine who the parents are. On Maury, what's his name, pervert, whatever. So
watch Kent talk out of both sides of his mouth at the same breath. I love it.
While speaking out of his ass.
Well,
Yes.
yeah. I mean, that's a constant that never ends. But did he just call him a pervert or something? Like
He can't. He tries to insult everything and everyone all the time. Like he said, there was that study from, oh shoot, what was it? He referenced it early. Berkeley, and he called it Berserkly. Yeah. It's like he has to always insult everything all the time. He also does this very debate bro type of thing where you'll notice like, oh, the extender and the flexor muscles and the phalanges. It's like, yes, your vocabulary is telling me how much you understand these things. Very good. It's just really, it's so transparent and stupid if you've seen this kind of thing before.
The one that drives me crazy is he says National Pornographic instead of National Geographic. And it's sort of, the first time you're like, oh yeah, pun, very funny, you know, very, very droll. And then, but you know, he uses it all the time, and by the time it's like, no, and you hear that when you see one of his videos, not even his like, you know, audience is laughing at it. It's just so tired. Like, get some new material.
It may be, but there's other explanations. I would be willing to bet every human being on the planet has DNA code that matches. You might even find DNA code in a human that matches a carrot.
So, Kent, the question was, why did God design the DNA code this way?
Oh, I have no idea.
Okay, that's what I was talking about in my opening statement.
There you go.
Okay. Do you think God designed animals to live in the water?
It looks like it to me with all the fish and octopus. Quite a few animals live in the water. They look pretty well designed to live in the water.
So do you agree that things like dorsal fins, pectoral fins, tail flukes, those are traits for animals that live in the water, or that animals that live in the water have?
Yeah, they seem to be well designed for that purpose. I think they enjoy having them. I don't know. I've never talked to them.
Yes,
but you would agree.
They
you
enjoy
answered my next question, so I think you're reading my mind. So I can skip that. But you agree that in organisms, its features, you know, phenotype, you think that that's sculpted by genes and how those genes are expressed, I would assume, right?
Right. I think the genetic code tells that body how to develop from an egg and a sperm into the full-grown animal. It's following a very incredibly complex code. Way too complex to have ever happened by chance.
Yep. And you think that those genetic similarities that we see between organisms, that's caused by the common designer too, right?
Or by, I think the designer designed it just like they designed submarines and to have, and airplanes also have ailerons because they have to go through a fluid medium like a solid or, a liquid or a gas. So I think it's a great design feature that has to be. They might have similarities in the code to make the aileron go up and down in an airplane and in a submarine.
Sure. See, he's just saying technical terms to
convey
the sense of intelligence.
Like it's not an aileron on a submarine. And also, does he realize that we design airplanes and submarines? Like,
yeah, comparing things that are known to be designed in the first place is basically question begging.
I think that's what he's trying to do. He's trying to say, hey, we designed things with similarities, therefore anything with similarities has to be designed. And I think that's where he's going with it. But what he's doing is ignoring the huge differences. And you get to this in a second, Eric. It's really good because there's some massive differences in things that he doesn't go, well, then they're not designed. He says, well, that's designed too, which is so weird. Yeah, I really did like it.
Hey, Donnie, where are we at with the time right now? Sorry.
Good question. You're just a little bit over 10 minutes.
Okay.
So you're doing pretty good. You're about halfway there.
Okay. Thank you very much. So this whole thing about design and genetics and the phenotypes of organisms. So if God designed that genetic code, then that means the genetic code can objectively reveal to us evidence of common design if common design is a thing. So this is where some actual science can take place because we're not just making assertions. We have a claim and there's evidence we can actually look at for this claim. So do whales have things like tail flukes and dorsal fins and pectoral fins?
Tell us what whales have, Kent. Tell us.
Sharks.
Yeah, you're trying to lead him into the whale penis, aren't you? Admit it.
What a dork.
Yeah.
They do? Yes, sir.
Do hippopotamuses have those things? Nice.
Little delay on that
They
one.
have some similar bone structure because it allows the different parts of their body to flex in the same way. That might be, the different phalanges and stuff like that. But I don't know if hippos. I don't know if sharks have a scapula. I never thought about that. But I think they have some similar design features.
Well, I was just talking about the hippos. So hippos, with regard to like the tail fluke, the dorsal fin, the pectoral fins, they don't have any of those things. Obviously, a hippo has bones. So does a whale.
Right.
So, anyways, why is it that whales have the same design as sharks, but their DNA says they're more similar to hippos?
Well, I don't know that it says that. The whale is incredibly.
That was a very pregnant pause, I got to say. That was a very, very pregnant.
It was pregnant so long. Yeah. It had its baby. The baby grew up, went to college, got married, and had another baby.
Complex. God created the whales according to my worldview, and I think they have a bone structure. I think they have fins. They have to do the same thing a shark has to do: swim through the water, raise and lower their depth through the.
He's not answering the question.
No.
The question is, yeah. Why are their like sort of the phenotype so similar to sharks, but their genetics is so similar to hippo?
Well, I think the whale is incredibly complex, and it needs to be able to blah, 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 blah.
Mm-hmm.
Water, navigate, turn, chase food, whatever they're doing.
But why is their DNA more similar to a hippo than a shark when the whale and the shark live in the same environment and have the same body organs, like structures?
Well, again, there would be several different ways to look at that. You would look at it as if they have to be related. And I would say, well, the same guy designed them. I'd be willing to bet all the Sikorsky helicopter and all the Huey helicopter and all the other helicopters have a lot of design similarities.
So we went through this, that if the DNA code is designed and the DNA code is what creates these structures, then we would objectively be able to find evidence of common design with animals that have the same outward appearance of design. The evidence of that would be buried in the genetics. It's not, though. The whale shares vastly more genes with the hippo that has none of those features and lives on land compared with the shark. So there's a terrible failure.
Was that a question? I didn't hear.
Well, it was just it was an explanation of the line of questioning here. So I'll just ask it again. Why is it that the DNA code, which we went over, is designed and would reveal evidence of design, shows that the whale and the thing it's more similar to, the design evidence just evaporates when we look at the DNA, which is also supposed to be designed?
I don't know that it evaporates. I think there's quite a few similarities still between a shark and a whale. Okay, I think
there's so much more between the whale and the hippo.
Yes,
I've never studied those DNA codes of any of those creatures. Okay.
Wow,
I'm shocked.
He's done that so many times. He retreats to, I've never done it. How do you tell if two things are related? I've never done a test like that.
Right.
So he's
really good at not debating.
Yeah, absolutely. And like he's basically saying, well, I'm unaware that mammals like a hippo and a whale have more genetic similarity than to a, what technically is a fish, a shark. Are you serious? You really? And this is a man that has spent a great portion of his life debating this. Like, you can't be this stupid. Maybe you can, but I don't believe he is this stupid. That he doesn't know that mammals are, I've never genetically tested them, so I don't know that mammals are more genetically related than mammals. What?
Well, if you didn't do it yourself, it doesn't count as science.
Oh yeah, I forgot.
He's not trying to make sense or be honest. He's trying to win a
Mm.
debate.
Yeah, but it looks so obvious of what he's doing. I beautiful sort of pin in the corner here where he's got no way out but to act so stupid. It really is telling. I love it. I absolutely love it.
But if we find some similarities or differences that would not lead to the absolute sure conclusion that he's guilty, there is no God and it happened by chance and Charlie Darwin is the winner, I think you're coming to a vastly wrong conclusion. If there are some
I never
similarities
said God
between
doesn't exist.
okay, if there are similarities between the DNA code of a whale and
So I just want to point out, this is the kind of stuff that he says, like this, and Charlie Darwin's a loser. It is just the rabbit. He's trying to make you chase something. He's trying to say something to make somebody angry because he doesn't want to talk about the current topic that you're on. And this is what I'll say over and over to people going into debate him. Don't chase that rabbit. And you've done fantastic. You've just said, hey, I didn't mention God. I didn't. Let's get back on the original topic. And I think that's an excellent way to handle him because he will say things just to make people angry. They start to argue with him and he doesn't have to answer the question anymore. He's so slippery.
He loves the big red fishes.
Yeah, red herring. Absolutely. That's exactly what it is. Red herring. For those who like the fallacies.
the hippo,
Who
they
doesn't?
both breathe air. Maybe they have to have some lines of code for that. The sharks, as opposed to don't have gills, sharks have gills, they can breathe underwater, where whales don't. So I think that the DNA code is incredibly complex. I'd be willing to bet $5 if we took the lines of code necessary to make a battleship and compared it to the lines of code necessary to make a helicopter, we'd find quite a few identical lines of code.
What?
He's just flailing in the wind.
Yeah. What do you mean lines of code to make is that how we make a battleship? And
yeah.
I don't
Battleships which were built with when we had analog technologies.
right. Like we don't build battleships anymore. There's carrier groups and things like that. And a helicopter, like the process, the engineering for creating something like a heavy battleship of World War II, post World War II period is completely different than how you build a I don't know what he's talking about here. It's ridiculous.
Identical. It doesn't prove a relationship. That's the way it has to be designed. It's a design feature.
Okay. I mean, we could go into that more, but I have a lot more questions and I don't want to run out of time.
Well, it's more like you've got two ships and the designs are completely and utterly different, but one's design is more similar to a land thing. It gets into this weeds of how are ships representative of organisms at all, because they don't reproduce, they don't produce, it's just a really crazy analogy. And you're right, he's flailing around for say anything to keep people's mind off that these things have similar genetic code to a hippo, not a shark. So it's a really good point.
How many animals do you think were on the Ark?
2 of each kind.
And then there's like 7 pairs of some of the other ones, right?
7 of the some, right? Yeah.
Okay, so how
Wild
many animals do you think that would be?
The current wild guess by a group called the Bearmanology website. Bearman means kind in Hebrew. They claim there are probably about 8,000.
It doesn't, but okay.
On the Ark.
Well, he didn't define kind either and said it doesn't matter. Well, if you're asking if we want to know how many of each kind is on the Ark, well, doesn't it matter what a kind is?
It would be helpful.
Yeah.
But yeah,
So
I just love how he goes on and on about how unscientific science is, and then just throws out baraminology, an actual fucking pseudoscience made up by the creationists so they can pretend they have a leg to stand on, as if it's fact. No standards. Love it.
Yeah. Have you encountered baraminology, Eric? It's wild. It's absolutely
No, I've never
wild.
even heard of it. Sounds like bears looking for pyrite.
It's a sort of classification system based on the Bible, and it's kind of just arbitrary of what they say is the same kind of thing. They just sort of put these arbitrary things around and say, hey, that's a kind and this is a kind.
So according to the great big book of creation, the God monster of Abraham's big book of death, a bat is a bird. Perfect book. No errors.
hmm And we've got a $4 super sticker from Farron Salas. Thanks, Farron. It's good to see you, mate. I haven't seen you for a while. And he's got a sticker of a coffee because I can't show that on the screen. But thanks, Farron. Really, really appreciate it, mate. Oop.
Have now diversified into the 167 varieties of ducks that we have today. Natural selection has caused them to diversify. Some can handle cold weather better, some can handle hot weather, some like different environments, but it can only select from what's already available. So I think that I have no idea, but I would guess if I had to pick a number, I'd say probably 8,000 kinds of animals, and they have now diversified into maybe even there's no definition of species.
And we can even double that we can more than double that and just say there are like 20,000 just to, if we want to be crazy about this.
Well, I also want to note that 8,000 animals, like caring for that amount of animals between 8 people. Can you imagine caring for 1,000 animals each per day? You would not be able to do so. And you add on to that, maintaining the ark, doing chores, all of this kind of stuff. It's just ridiculous.
Have you ever seen his ark debate?
Which one?
I'm only aware of one that he ever did. It was on Modern Day Debate. It was, I don't even remember who he debated, but it was so incredibly stupid. They brought up that because he says that, the whole like we had, I'm pretty sure Kent's position is we had Pangea before the flood and then the continents in their places after the flood. And the guy brings up that would have caused tsunamis, the likes of which we've never seen. How did a wooden boat survive that? And I'm not kidding. He grabbed a globe and he said, oh, well, when the tsunamis were happening over here, the boat was over here. That was his explanation. He said, when I was in Pensacola in 2012 and the tsunami hit Japan, I didn't feel a thing. I was like just the stupidest shit ever.
That's not the weirdest Hovind belief. I think the moon bukkake has got to be the weirdest one I've heard.
Oh my goodness, yes.
Which is that the craters on the moon were caused by the fountains of the deep opening up and shooting rock up to hit the moon. I'm not even joking. It's bad. Wild. Yeah.
It was just the cop out that he had. He couldn't say anything other than, oh, well, the boat was over here and the tsunamis were over here. It's just like, it was so obvious that he knew that he was completely destroyed with that question. And that was the only possible thing he could say.
Incredible. Thank you so much, John. Godless Engineer for $5 US. Thank you, mate. Ken Hovind is a plague on humanity. Mark is awesome. Thank you, man. I really appreciate it. That's amazing. And then there's the ice canopy one is hilarious. That he thinks that to solve the heat problem, you're aware of the heat problem. If you're familiar with Gutsick Gibbon, you probably know about the heat problem. He said that there's an ice canopy over the Earth kind of thing to cool it down. The problem is that when you put a solid barrier around something, it's called a greenhouse. Like the sunlight gets in, but it doesn't get light. So basically, this explanation just made the problem 100 times worse because,
And as if an ice canopy miles up would, the problem is it melts the crust and boils the oceans. It would still do that before interacting with the ice canopy.
Absolutely, yeah. But putting a solid, transparent object around something is not going to solve that problem.
Yeah, it's an insulator.
Right. So that's fun. Anyway, we could go on for ages about like Kent Hovind's greatest hits, but that's for sure. It's ridiculous.
How long do you think it took those species that were on the Ark to become we've documented well over 1.5 million species today. There's probably a lot more than that. But how long do you think it took them to become the millions of species we see today?
Does that millions of species today include all the fish? Because they didn't have to go on the Ark. Where'd you get that number from?
The vast majority of species we've documented are insects. So we can take the fish, and that's only going to be tens of thousands, maybe near 100,000. But sorry.
Well, God told Noah to bring those on land in whose nostrils is the breath of life. Insects don't have nostrils. They weren't on the Ark either. They can survive on floating vegetation, floating carcasses. So of the land-dwelling, air-breathing animals, it would take probably about 8 or 10 or 20,000. But see, to say those 20,000 turned into let's pick a number and say there's even 500,000. And again, there's no definition of species. Okay?
Right, Ken. I hate to interrupt, but I only have so much time. So the question is, how long do you think it took those 8,000 species to turn into the many, many, many hundreds of thousands of species we see today?
4,400 years is what the Bible says what dates would be.
Okay, so why is it that a few thousand species can turn into millions of species in a short time, but the idea of that happening over hundreds of millions of years is somehow not possible?
Well, we cannot observe hundreds of millions of years, okay? And
The question is, why is it not possible?
Well, first of all, it's not possible to have the hundreds of millions of years. There's lots of ways to prove the Earth cannot be that old. There's not this debate tonight. I do that on my video number 1. It can't be billions of years old.
Buy my DVDs. We got there.
We never see, what we've seen is 167 varieties of ducks.
The question is, why is it not possible? Not what have we seen? Why would it be impossible?
Well, there are barriers. There are certain barriers that animals reach a barrier, like the dogs. They got a 4.5-inch dog and a 44-inch dog. But there's a limit. You're not going to get a 5-mile tall dog or a half-inch tall dog. There are half-inch tall creatures, insects by the millions, okay? And you guys don't admit there are limits to the variation. That's why you live on a planet with imagination. You can imagine these little changes going forever. Well, you and SpongeBob can get a room together, but that's not science.
So again, why is it that we can just take one kind of animal that was on the ark or whatever? Like, why can one animal turn into the hundreds or maybe thousands of species of that animal that we can see today in just a couple thousand years, but more extreme changes are impossible?
Well, the science deals with what we can observe. We've observed humans being able to manipulate the gene code or selectively breed and develop new breeds of cows. There's a cow that gives 280 pounds of milk.
Yeah, no, he's not. And a better question is why did it happen? Evolution happened so rapidly and then suddenly stopped. You know, it's a good line though. Sort of what makes it impossible. Yeah,
and he talks about how it stopped just before the modern day for some reason. But the thing of it is, that's a heresy according to Kent's own beliefs, because according to the Bible, everything that's around today was created in the beginning. There hasn't been a differentiation of kinds, and we never hear, Moses doesn't talk about it, Ezekiel doesn't talk about it, none of these people talk about how there's 7,000 new species today than in my father's time, or anything that would indicate this sort of weirdly super sped up differentiation is occurring just to make the modern day look like it does for some reason.
It's very strange. I don't understand it.
Yeah, he's just making the shit up.
Yeah, he's saying anything he can to put doubt on the evolutionary theory that he doesn't like. It's really obnoxious.
Barn, okay, when you bring the food to it and bring the water to it, but it can barely walk. So I think we've observed man can artificially select things and get quite a few strange varieties. They've now got over 330 some breeds of dogs, and most of them would not survive in the wild. So if you're talking about animals that are in the wild, these new species you're referring to, are they all living in colonies alive without man's assistance in the wild? Where'd you pick this number of millions of species? You're including insects, which you should not, because they don't. It's just simply land-dwelling, air-breathing with nostrils. Read the Bible; it says that. But
so you think that there are hundreds of thousands of species of insects, and you think that although there was no dry land, they were flying around and didn't perish during the flood? That seems a little silly. I would like to get into that more later, but I know I'm almost out of time, so I want to try to get to my last question, if that's okay.
Got about 30 seconds, Eric.
If we go over by like a minute, is that okay?
Yeah. We're flowing good, so no problem.
That's okay with you too, Kent?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, thanks. So humans, we have the gene for making vitamin C, but it doesn't work anymore. So why did God give us a genome that has dysfunctional parts?
I have a car that the radio doesn't work anymore either, but I don't think Chevy made it that way. I think they made it to work, and it just something broke over time. I think we're looking at man today as a great grandson of the original. We're a copy off a copy off a copy. I think it's amazing.
Hold on, Kent you are personally knitted together in your mother's womb by tiny little Jesus particles. They've got the needle and thread. They're doing the work. It doesn't matter what happened in the Garden of Eden or the fall of man or whatever bullshit excuse Kent wants to fucking slap tape on top of this nonsense, because according to Kent, God made you. So God didn't just take the broken vitamin C DNA and just copy and paste it. He personally hand-coded that shit pre-broken just for you. The fuck is up with that?
Yeah, and I just want to say that like the Salisbury Cathedral clock is made in like the 1300s. and it's still working today. So why is it that we can design machines that operate better than God? It seems really weird.
He makes all these really dumb arguments and stuff, and I wasn't taking the bait on them because I didn't want the conversation to turn into something like theological. So I just keep being like, no, the question is, why is it impossible? Or why does the evidence,
Yep.
Yep.
And he's trying to
very well
slither
played at
away.
that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Whereas here, where we're not on such a tight clock, we're prone to tangents.
I am guilty of tangenting, but I think and fantastic job at not letting him slither away, because he is like, I want to reiterate this. Eric's making it look easy. It is not. He is slippery, like really slippery. But also a better question is also, why do chimpanzees have the same broken gene that we do for vitamin C? Why is theirs broken as well? And other apes are broken as well, but nothing else is. There are some animals with a different, like, vitamin C deficiency, but they've got a different type of broken gene. It's just the apes that have this broken vitamin C gene. Like, so why is that?
Almost like we're related.
So then you could sort of follow up with, do you think that every one of the apes just happened to break their vitamin C gene in the exact same way? Or is it more plausible that we had a common ancestor?
It's magic.
It's this incredibly complex gene code that you can pass on in an incredibly fun way to your next generation. So I think that's evidence of great design.
That it doesn't work is evidence of great design. I would never intentionally build something that I know is going to break. So you've kind of sold your God out just now. Are you claiming that Adam and Eve could make vitamin C and now we can't?
I don't know. I never met them. I'm going to meet them one day, but I suspect that they.
I don't know again. I don't know. I've never met it. I've never investigated. I've never searched for it. I've never studied it. Never tried that. I plead the fifth. Come on, man. Seriously, just answer something. Holy crap.
It could, but see.
Is there any evidence that they could?
I don't know. They lived to be 900. Must have done something
I
right.
don't know.
So you have no idea?
I don't think anybody does. How could I know if Adam and Eve could make vitamin C? How am I supposed to know something like that? Do you know?
I don't know. That's the problem with, well, they certainly didn't exist. And there's the problem with your worldview. And this is what I talked about in my opening statement. We have either incredulity or I don't know, or just nothing. The weird metaphors about cars with radios, I guess. So I went slightly over my time. We can pick up more of this later.
No worries. That was good. I liked the way that flowed and the fast-paced nature of it. So very good. A lot of fun. Now we're going to
So just before we go on to the next section, Ember, this is probably going to have to be a two-parter, mate, if you're happy to do the one on your channel. Is that okay?
Oh, for sure. This is tremendous fun.
Yeah, so Eric, what we do is Ember and I switch channels every week kind of thing. So some of them are too long. We do a two-parter. I'll go to Ember's channel, or if it started on Ember, she'll come to my channel, and then we'll continue it onwards. So where do you want to call it? Is it a good place to call it, or do you want to go for a bit longer?
I'm good either way. We could do a poll in the chat.
Oh, I know what the poll's going to say. Sorry, chat. I'm just throwing you under the bus.
That's right.
I missed a super chat too. I'm so sorry. Who was that? Was that Left-Handed Jedi? Did I get that? No. Left-Handed Jedi for $2. Miracles in Hyper Evolution ended recently. Why? Yes, correct. Miracles had a sharp decline ever since the invention of the camera phone. I don't know why, but they might be allergic to it or something. I have no idea why. Jedi must be a coincidence or something. I don't know. Okay, so let's get a poll going. I do
democracy in action, folks. I mean,
I do have to dip out, so regardless of the poll decision,
for
that's
sure,
gonna be the status of me. But thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. It's been really fun interacting with you, getting your insights and whatnot. I'll send you an invite for next week if you wanna. If you're busy, no worries, but you're more than welcome.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Yeah, it was a pleasure to meet you, and I'm really impressed with your performance. Just fantastic performance. I do want to say that. I really appreciated, you know, Kent just squirming on the end of that hook. I love every time I see that. Fantastic.
Thank you very much.
My pleasure.
It was neat.
Oh, I love to hear people's, you know, what they intended, what they were trying to do, you know, how they address something. I always love to hear it because, you know, I don't think there is any. I think I love hearing it because it helps me in my debates. It helps, you know, get insight. Like everybody's got different techniques and stuff, and I just love seeing it. I really do. It's fantastic.
And Eric had such a different take than we normally see. Now, even though Kent is repetitive, it's often fun to cover these debates because of the different ways that people come at Kent's predictable responses. Like we were talking about with Ian Chen earlier in a previous debate. Ian went to the trouble of getting on his own diploma mill doctorate just so he could make Kent call him doctor back.
Yeah, that was fantastic. So yeah, Ian is such a glorious troll and just such a great guy. Like he really does it. It's that really dry Australian sense of humor that I just adore. You know, it's really dry. It's really cynical. I love it. It's fantastic. Yeah, so Ian Chen, really good one to watch. Usually he'll go in wearing a Hawaiian shirt just to annoy Kent. You know, he'll go off on tangents that, you know, just annoy him. It's fantastic. It's really fantastic. So vote in the poll if you do wish to continue. We'll probably go for, you know, another half hour or so if you do. I think 3 hours is enough for me, especially when it's Kent. Crap, he's hard to watch sometimes.
Yeah, that's fair. This one is more fun than usual, but it does get heavy sometimes.
Well, I just love Eric's not letting him ramble on. He's not letting him go off on his usual shtick. You know, it's actually great to see. I'm really impressed. Really love it. Went through the trouble. You mean paid $200? Yeah, Bubba Sweat. That's basically it. Yeah, that's exactly what he did. Yes.
Well, you know, I mean, yeah, it's true. You can just like mail a check and get a thing, and it's done. But you have to like work or something to get the $200 first. So that can be a bit of trouble.
That's true. There you go. That's a good way to look at it. Although, you know, I will say Ian Chen's doctorate is just as valid as Kent's, quite frankly. Just as valid.
Absolutely true.
Which, by as his own admission, not at all. Like,
in fact, I got to remember that more often. Like, I don't interact with Ian all that often because, first of all, Australia, but second of all, he's a busy guy. He does a lot of shit besides just pick on Kent. But I got to remember to call him doctor from time to time.
Yeah, Dr. Chen. It's fantastic. Okay, and the poll says 100% yes. So yeah, we're continuing. All right.
Cool. Wow.
A couple of those points you guys were talking about at the end there, Eric, like you said, you can pick up on that after Kent's roughly 20 minutes now. So Kent, I'm going to reset the timer and you can lead the way for about 20 minutes. Go ahead.
Okay. I shared, Eric, with you, let's see, 752, that many scientists quickly admit they do not know exactly what a species is. Would you please tell me, since the topic of the debate tonight is common descent the best explanation for the origin of species? Would you please tell me, what is a species exactly? Give me a foolproof, airtight definition of species.
Well, like you said, there are multiple definitions, and we do have demarcation problems. That is a real like philosophical quandary. So the easiest explanation that's typically used, like in schools or whatever, is a species is a group of animals that live in the same environment that can reproduce and produce fertile offspring. So you get weird exceptions to this, however, like lions and tigers. They can reproduce and produce a hybrid, although they don't live in the same environment. Now, typically those hybrids are sterile, but I have heard that they have successfully produced, I don't know what you would call it, viable, fertile, I guess, the lion-tiger hybrids. Hybridization is also common in the plant world as well. So plants that can be wildly different end up having some sort of hybrid compatibility.
Okay. Would you agree that the example you gave, the lion and the tiger, are both considered in the cat? We'll call it family, for lack of a better word.
But they literally are in the cat family. Like, belliforms that literally
yeah. Details.
The phylum, class, order, family, genus, species. They're both in the cat family, right?
Yeah, the Felidae, I think that's a family. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't speak Latin. It's a dead language. So does that
What? A language went extinct? What?
What? It's like saying it's like saying something and then going, well, I don't speak French. Like, oh, do you want a croissant? No, I'm sorry, I don't speak French. You know what it means, though, don't you? What the hell? That this pretending to be ignorant of almost anything is getting a bit ridiculous, quite frankly. Like, oh, I don't know what feline means. I don't speak Latin. Seriously, Ken? What the hell? Like, he's really, I get reminded that scene from Spider-Man into the multiverse, right? Where he goes, the security guard says, Miles, and he's like, play dumb. And he's like, who's Miles? And he's like, not that dumb. And it's just like, that's what it reminds me of,
Kinda, yeah.
Yeah.
is because we can see the two in the cat family hybridize. Does that make you believe that lions are related to potatoes?
So the way you would test that, because Darwin had this crazy idea that life has changed so much on our planet that, entire species become something different over time, which would imply, it wouldn't necessarily imply that there's one universal common ancestor, but that was the idea. And then later we figured out how to, that when animals or...
And I just have to say, it is crazy that Charles Darwin came up with the idea by just observing stuff. Like, that is actually the most amazing thing. Like, it is so, just observing it and paying attention to all of the features of stuff and coming up with the idea that something had to be passed between parents and child in order for these structures to be just amazing man. And that's why we kind of hold him in such high regard, because of that leap of logic. Is just nobody thought of it at the time. Well, actually, that's not true. There was a couple of other people that thought of it at the time, but he really did expound.
Yeah, there was a contemporary, and the general thesis had been around forever, like the concept of heritability. That's behind all of agriculture. Like,
yes,
ancient farmers realized that if you breed the two biggest strawberry plants together, you get a bigger strawberry plant. And that's how we started the process of developing all the wonderful products of produce that we have these days. But Darwin took this thing that was known and put it to words and gave us the framework and explained it in a way where it was possible to teach in an intellectual sense and to, more importantly, investigate and learn more about, instead of just an observation like, hey, birds can fly. He's saying, well, everything that flies uses wings, so maybe there's something to the wings we should look at. He's making it scientific.
Yeah, and the Galapagos was really where it reinforced it, where he went, well, there's these birds over here. They catch stuff like this. Their beaks seem designed to do that, but these ones over on this other island, their beaks are designed to do this. Maybe it's not designed. Maybe they're changing for what they have to do on each island to survive. And that was the amazing leap that allowed us to pin down evolution. It was incredible. Carl Linnaeus, thank you.
Plants, whatever, when something reproduces, there's a hereditary molecule. We figured it out. It's DNA. So then in the 20th century, it was time to see if evolution would pass this test. If we can see that there is relatedness, and specifically a hierarchy of relatedness, mammals should share more genes in common with each other than they do with any other group of animals on the planet, so on and so forth. And that's exactly what happened. So do cats and potatoes share genes? Yes. Is that what it means to be related? Yes.
So you believe, for the record here, Your Honor, cats, the lion and the potato are related because they share some genes, okay?
Scientifically, that's the only thing we know about genetics. What it tells us is relatedness. And you can tell how closely related something is by how much the genetics diverges. That's how you would do a paternity test. That's how you could tell to what degree your dog is like a purebred or a mutt or whatever. And it extends across species.
That is such a good example, like how to tell if a dog is purebred. That is such a good example. I love it. Because yeah, that's exactly how we do it. We see how much of the gene is in common. That's how we determine relatedness in every single gene test. And
Yeah.
you know, it works. It works.
Yeah, and to an extent, you could say that, like Eric was pointing out, Darwin effectively predicted that. Like he didn't
Yes.
know how to phrase it because he didn't know what would be coming, but he said there'd be a heritable. He even nailed the fact that it was a molecule. That's pretty impressive.
That is really impressive. Like we're talking about, you know, the 1800s, I believe that we're talking about, like over 100 years ago.
1858-ish. Yeah.
Yeah, over 100 years ago, 150 years almost. It's incredible.
So is it even possible on planet Peterson that maybe the potato sends roots into the dirt and has to draw minerals out of the dirt? It has to have a code to tell it how to extract certain minerals to make a potato. And the lion has to eat certain things that contain these same minerals to build body parts that he needs. He has to, keep adding gas to the vehicle. Could it be that they both have a common need for certain minerals?
Are you trying to say that potatoes have like the genetic code for a stomach? Because I can assure you that is not the case.
I was kind of wondering. I'm like, is he suggesting that the root process of absorption is the same as digestion? Like in one, you're creating enzymes. In just what? in Soviet Russia, potato eat you.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, in a way, when we die, they kind of do. If you just have to be buried in a potato field, really. Let's face it.
Well, I'm half Irish. I may end up doing that. You never know.
Wow. Okay. Yeah.
Could their genetic code similarities be a result of a common need for something, or is ancestry the only way it could happen? They have to have a great share a great grandpa, or could it be the same designer made them to meet the same needs?
Well, we don't have any evidence for that, Ken. If you have evidence of same designer, present it. But he's just no. That's what my beliefs are. Yours is a religion too. Yada yada. Blah blah blah. So yeah.
Yeah, the religion thing. I mean, it's laughably dumb, but
yes.
There, you can get somewhere with that. It's fuzzy in my head. It's the rough. It's the concept of a plan, if you will. But like we were touching on earlier, with science, you can back up your beliefs with stuff that anyone can look into. What is the underlying basis? Kent just hand waves and says, "Well, mine's a religion." I admit that. Great, but why do you believe that? Why not say Islam or Buddhism or whatever? Like, why do you believe that? What is the reason? What can we investigate to determine the truth of what you're saying?
Yes. And even if you prove evolution completely and utterly wrong, it gets you no closer to your assertion that it was a designer. You have to show that independently. Like, this is the thing, like you could completely destroy sort of evolution tomorrow, and it still doesn't get you to a designer.
If life on this planet has a
and even if you get to a designer, can you tell it's not aliens? Like, it doesn't get you to a god. So this is just the first step, is knocking down evolution, but they're failing at that kind of thing.
Common ancestor deep in the past, then that means that there would be like whatever's conducive to life, whatever works well for life, the absorption of minerals. Like we have carbon-based life on this planet, not silicon-based life. It's been proposed that that's possible, but chemically speaking, perhaps carbon just simply is the best. And in the competitive environment of the biosphere and all these other geobiochemical cycles that interact together, certain things are more conducive for life to other things. So that would carry across even vast stretches of time toward organisms. So if there are some things, like there aren't very many things that potatoes and cats have in common, but like the idea that it was a common designer that did it and that it's not just the rules of biology, I don't really see that at all. How the idea of the designer is the better explanation, because that idea can't be tested in any way. It's just a declaration after we learned the facts of genetics. No creationist ever said, you know what? I bet we'll find a hereditary molecule and you'll be able to see all these crazy similarities.
Yeah, and how do you falsify it is more importantly. Don't forget in science, the falsification criteria is really important. What falsifies the designer? You can't. Anything that we see, well, the designer just decided to do it that way. What's the falsification criteria? How do we tell it's not a designer? Oh, you can't because it's a designer. That's unfalsifiable.
Yeah, like how would you? It reminds me of a long time ago. I came across a new apologist, and even though my channel was fairly new, I was already getting tired of Mike Winger and Jay Warner Wallace and the same old crowd over and over. So I was like, "Ooh, a new person," and he brought out the watchmaker argument. But he did it in that sort of extreme way, the NIFB do, which Kent is a member of, where they say, you know, the whole universe was hand designed. It's all watches. That's how we know it was designed.
Right.
What?
The circular argument, right?
Yeah.
We can tell it's designed because it was designed.
Yeah, because everything is designed. So by definition, it has to have been designed.
Yep.
Ta-da!
Wow.
Well, I disagree. I think it's been tested billions of times. They always plant potatoes and expect potatoes to grow. When they crossbreed cats, they expect cats to come out.
Yep, that's how evolution works too, Kent.
So I think you avoided my question, though. Is there any other explanation for the potato and the cat having DNA structures that are identical? And some lines of code might be identical. Just like
only one explanation has any evidence, and that's the idea of evolution over time, because of what we learned about how genetics and inherited characteristics works and all that. The design thing, there's no, you can just say that after the fact. It could also be unicorn farts that just made it look that way. I can just declare that with no evidence and no explanatory mechanism, but I don't believe in things that there's no evidence for.
Your whole worldview is believing in things that there's no evidence for. There's no evidence for a cat ever producing anything other than a cat. There's no evidence for a potato.
It's an idiotic straw man of evolution. Evolutionists don't say that
excellent
it works like
that he
Pokemon
pointed that out.
Like that.
Yeah,
I know.
Yeah, no, fantastic. That is a straw man. We've never seen a cat produce anything but a cat, and it's like, well, why would we? That's not how evolution
Who would
works.
suggest that? Yeah, it just the succinct. That's a straw man of evolution, which is all you need to say. But it is idiotic because it's deliberately mischaracterized. It's not even a straw man. It's fucking wild. I love the unicorn farts, but I'm kicking myself because when Eric was here, I forgot to ask about Spanky. Damn it. Why am I so bad at this job?
But maybe he'll show up on the next one. You never know.
Maybe.
Yeah, no, he seemed like a really nice guy. Maybe he'll drop in again. I'd be happy to talk to him again. Happy to host him again. Absolutely.
At least I get the impression that he is. As I mentioned, I've seen him. I watch way too many debate videos, and I see quite a few of his. And even when a person is saying the most abysmally fucking stupid things, he's still really nice to them, unless they start saying horrible things about people, the way Kent sometimes does.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's only fair. I think, Kent will say the most horrible stuff and then protest when anybody merely repeats facts about him, because it is a fact that he was convicted of tax evasion, and it is a fact he was convicted of domestic abuse. That's a fact. So yeah, I don't have any sympathy for Kent at all. But no, when I say he seems like a nice guy, it's from a brief interaction of him. He seems like I don't know him that well at all. But yeah, I get what you're saying. A very, very. I mean, I'm very much a proponent of the be respectful, because you can't make someone be respectful, but you can control what you do. You have control over how you behave, and just because someone's behaving like a tool, it doesn't mean you have to as well. I think, especially this debate, he comes out looking like certainly the more reasonable person in the debate. So,
know that you know this because it's been told to you.
Well, it's like saying we've never seen a Latin speaker produce a non-Latin speaker. That's essentially the same thing, right? It's the same thing. We've never seen a Old English speaker produce anything but an Old English speaker. Yeah, that's kind of a straw man because we wouldn't expect them to produce it directly. We'd have to wait a long, long time for Latin to turn into Spanish and English and, these other. Wait, is English a romantic language? It isn't it? It's French. English is Germanic, That's what I'm saying.
English is 3 languages in a trench coat that beat up the other languages and took their lunch money. There is Romance influence,
Yeah.
The UK, well, what's today is the UK, was a province of the Roman Empire for a long time, and that left a big mark on the language. But also the French conquest, but also the Germanic, the Saxon conquest. There have been so many conquests, and they all leave a mark on the language. And then there's the British Empire, literally running around stealing things from everywhere on Earth. It's wild. But like Matt Dillahunty sometimes says, at what point did a Latin speaker give birth to a French speaker?
Yeah.
Punctuated equilibrium.
And some in the chat's asking when was a cat not a cat. There is a few fossils of ancient cats, and one that's basically in between a cat and a dog. It's basically a cat dog essentially. So we do have these fossils. I'm just gonna grab it now. It's just for your information because we have actually found this kind of thing. So I'm afraid to burst your bubble. I'll put it in chat. It's got a very, very long name. It's named after a Belgian village. It's Dormalycian Latori. It's a tree dweller that sort of is an ancestor of both the cat and the dog. So if you want us, we'll show you that.
It's a cat dog. Ooh.
It's a cat dog, yeah.
Love it.
It's really cool.
It's a thing we see in the fossil record. Like people say, oh, well, birds came from dinosaurs. Well, show me the thing that isn't quite a bird, but is still kind of a dinosaur. Okay. And we bring out Archaeopteryx, for example. I mean, there's a bunch of them, but that's possibly the most famous.
Yeah, because that is essentially right in between the bird and the dinosaur, basically. Like it is about the middle of the road kind of thing. It has all these it's a mosaic species, as it's called. It has a lot of attributes of birds and a lot of attributes of dinosaurs all in one. So it's
You know the issue with the missing links, every time you present one, they go, aha, well, now you have 2 gaps. There's a gap between the cat and this thing and the dog. And if you find examples in there, well, now you've got 4 gaps. And the only way, these gaps are just going to keep increasing. And the only way to fix these gaps, that's right, folks, God. You shove God into those gaps. And I want to play the clip from Futurama, but it's slightly long and
please don't get me demonetized.
No, that one's actually safe. I edited it specifically so that I uploaded just that by itself. I left it as a draft and let YouTube run its checks, and it's fine.
Okay.
All right. Let me see. Here it is.
As a professor of science, I assure you that we did in fact evolve from filthy monkey men.
My ancestors were not monkeys. They were orangutans.
Dr. Banjo?
In the fur. And I remind you that evolution is merely a theory, like gravity or the shape of the Earth. If your elitist East Coast evolution is real, why has no one found the missing link between modern humans and ancient apes?
We did find it. It's called Homo erectus.
Then you have proven my case, sir. For no one has found the link between apes and this Homo erectus.
Yes, they have. It's called Homo habilis.
Aha! But no one has found the missing link between ape and the so-called Homo habilis.
Yes, they have. It's called Australopithecus africanus.
Oh, I've got you now. Fair enough. But where, then, is the missing link between apes and this Darwinius macilli? Answer me that, Professor.
Oh, okay, granted that one missing link is still missing. But just because we haven't found it doesn't mean it doesn't exist.
Pshaw! things don't exist simply because you believe in them. Thus saith the almighty creature in the sky!
Fucking perfect.
Yeah, Futurama was genius. Actually, I liked Futurama more than I did The Simpsons kind of thing. It's a shame that it didn't continue. I thought it was absolute genius.
Well, they keep resurrecting it every few years, which is also interesting for religious implications.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I almost miss watching TV just for that show.
Yeah. Same here.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't mean I swallowed the garbage, okay?
Well, it doesn't mean you understood it either, I guess.
Oh, I understand it, yeah. Here's the chart.
No, because you asked.
No, he doesn't understand it. Or he's pretending not to understand it. You know, if you're going down to the road of, I don't know if genetic similarities prove, you know, hereditary. Come on, dude. Come on. Seriously.
Horrible questions.
It's my turn to ask questions, Your Honor. Here is the chart used straight from the public school textbook, showing the butterfly has a common ancestor with a frog and a sunflower and a shark. And the ancestor was an amoeba. This is not science.
It wasn't an amoeba. Amoeba is a modern organism. And Kent's been told this over and over and over, and he still does the same conflation between an amoeba and a basal prokaryote. He still does the same thing. You know, it's ridiculous.
So you said it's evidence-based. Where's the evidence for an amoeba ever producing anything other than another amoeba? Where's the evidence of an amoeba learning how to get wings and fly like a butterfly?
Well, we have very simple organisms becoming multicellular, and in the case of Cladomonas reinhardti, which was an algae that formed into a colony and then became truly multicellular, that all depended on one another. So we kind of do have that evidence. Endosymbiosis is also incredibly fascinating, where one organism swallows another one and they become one organism. They both depend on one another from that point onwards, is also incredibly fascinating. And we have modern examples of that.
Oh, for sure. There's so much cool shit having to do with the algae thing. Isn't the only one like that, but it's one of the most popular because we ran that experiment 5 times and got 3 different paths to multicellularity. Like, we didn't just demonstrate viability, we showed that there's a gazillion different ways it could be done, or at least 3 ways, you know, which if there were a God who designed everything and was directing everything, why didn't it happen the same way each of the 3 times? Very peculiar.
Or swim in the water like a frog. Your chart shows that it happened. You want this to be taught to all the kids. All you have is imagination. See, just like I think God...
Is there a question in here somewhere? Like, I think that, mind you, if, you know, maybe, and I'd love to ask Eric this, is he just letting him burn time with no questions? Because I've seen this before, right? You have a sort of a, what's it called? The questioning phase. It slipped my mind what that's called. Sort of the
cross-examination?
Yeah, cross-examination. Thank you. That would have driven me crazy. Cross-examination. And somebody just uses it to rant, basically. Now, you saw how effective it was that Eric did. He like got Kent into corners and then pinned him kind of thing in a corner where he had to go, well, I don't know whether the whale is closer genetically to a hippo. Come on. You know, like that's really good. But if he's just going to rant, I wonder if Eric is just letting him, because he's not having to answer questions. You know, he just doesn't have to answer questions. He can just let him, you know, it's basically old man yells at cloud, you know.
It really is. And it's not even like Eric's fault or Donnie's fault, because that's the nature of the format. Kent is in control of Kent's time.
Yep. But Kent's in control of Kent. I'm not sure how in control he is, quite frankly. That's fair. But yeah.
Where's that incoherent rage graphic?
It made the similarity. You think, over time it did it. You're living in an imaginary world. Where's the evidence?
Yeah, I've got a funny feeling that he's just quite satisfied to let, you know, no questions are incoming. Don't have to answer questions. I've seen this before in debates, and it's like, you are wasting your time. You could actually be doing a series of questions in order to, you know, poke holes in their worldview, but instead you're just saying stuff. It is so, it's not as effective. So I don't know what Kent is doing, but
Preacher's gotta preach.
yeah, that's true.
An amoeba producing anything other than an amoeba. They've tried in the laboratory. They can't make it happen. Where's your evidence to make me want to pay for this chart to be taught to the kids? Show me the evidence of where it actually happened. An amoeba produced a non-amoeba. Okay. The evidence.
Two problems. One, you're idiotic straw man. So here's like a family tree, right? So we have this generation, and then this generation, and then the one before it. So whatever. So if like family tree, right? Can't like this make sense? This is just a clarification question.
Oh, I have a family tree. I had parents. Probably you did too, and probably grandparents too.
Sure. When did the grandparents produce the grandchildren?
Well, this is a straw man you're bringing up here now. You're avoiding my question.
So, no, I'm not avoiding your question. I'm just explaining the folly of your logic. Grandparents don't produce grandchildren, but that's not what a tree like this or like the one you're showing us tells you. It just tells you what is related and to what degree those things are related. For example, right here where my finger is, these are more closely related than these over here. So the first problem is nobody ever said that amoebas produced humans or anything like that. That's not what your chart says. I know that this has been explained to you. I don't know why you continue to say it, but if you can understand that this chart doesn't mean that grandparents produce grandchildren, they produce offspring of their own that then go on to produce other offspring, then there we go. Now, how do we tell the grandparents are related to their children? By testing their genes. And we've tested the genes of life on this planet. If no life on the planet outside of its own species or whatever had any genetic commonalities at all, if the correlation was 0, that would have been catastrophic for evolution. It would have completely collapsed. But that's exactly the opposite of what happened. We share more genes with other great apes than any other form of life. And then we share not as many, but more with other mammals.
I do also want to say a big spear in the side, pardon the pun, spear in the side of the creationist is also that the chimpanzee shares more genetic similarity to us than any other ape. Not the gorilla, except for the bonobo, but I mean like chimpan bonobo shares more genetic similarity to us than the gorilla, the orangutan, a gibbons. Why is that? If we're one kind and chimpanzees and gorillas and stuff are another kind, why do we share the most genetic similarity to chimpanzees and bonobos? And why do they share it with us and not with the other great apes? It's absolutely a thorn in their side. And I've never heard any kind of, coherent answer for it.
The surprise. It's a secret. God works in mysterious ways.
I don't know. I'd love to get that answer, but I think that, like his line of reasoning is fantastic, but I think that little bit extra, why do we share more genetic similarities with a chimpanzee than any of the other great apes do with chimpanzee? Why is that?
Than any other form of life. And then we share even fewer with, you go birds, reptiles, amphibians, whatever, all the way down to the plants. So.
Okay. Cisco West, now you're just being rude, mate. Now you're just being rude. What the hell is going on in my chat? Now you've drawn my attention. You're not going to be happy.
It's been an interesting night. I had to turn off the chat because shit was getting a little crazy earlier.
Yeah. Everyone settle down. Seriously. I will remove that. Now, seriously, Cisco West, we're fine to have conversations. That's fine. Just I'm not sure what ad hominems have been going on that you're talking about.
Excitement?
I gave you the sort of fossil of the primitive carnivore that sort of is a basal form of both the dog and the cat. I'm not sure what else you need, but that you said show us it's like a non-cat. Yeah, that's not a cat. It's a relative of both. Yeah, Alex is right. It's a relative of both. But yeah, like seriously, settle down. Stop insulting people. And if anyone, I can't see any insults caused you. I don't see any ad homs. I'm looking, but yeah, if anyone from my side is doing ad homs, please do not. Okay, Dr. Tap just sent in 1 readership. Thank you so much, Dr. Tap. You lost a poll today, mate. I have to say.
What?
You did. Tapioca Weasel lost the poll. It was, should we continue? The choices were yes, no, and Tapioca Weasel. And yes won at 100%. Yeah, yes won at 100%. So you lost your first poll. Sorry about that. Yeah. B-Rad was gifted a readership by Tapioca Weasel. Thanks so much, Tapioca Weasel. I really appreciate it. That's awesome. I think this is a great time to wrap up, though. We're kind of probably about halfway through, so maybe we can curate the questions at the end and just get the ones that are kind of funny, kind of thing. Because I usually the question time goes for a fair bit.
That's true.
Yeah.
If there's time, but yeah.
Yeah, not a problem. So do stay tuned. Better Than Ember, description in the title of the episode, for your regularly scheduling awesomeness, and the second part of this debate too. I mean, that's a secondary thing, though. It's the awesomeness that we go over there for. Let's face it. That's really what we're after.
That's right.
But thank you so much for joining us, everybody. I really appreciate it. Do you have anything more to add? What are you up to this week?
Oh goodness, this week's gonna be fun for a whole bunch of IRL type stuff. Tomorrow, kicking off Atheist Live's interviews for spooky season with the master of horror, J.L. Warren. Thursdays, transpositions, good news. Come get the good news. The gospel, if you prefer.
Cool.
That amuses me. Let's see. Saturday, of course, we'll be back on my channel with part 2 of this debate review. I know there's more, but I cannot think of it. Also, I've got the other channels. I'm dropping videos randomly on Book of Ember about my own transition experiences, and the third Ember channel is finally going Transparency Talk, where I'm going beyond the limits of the news to interview other trans people with their inspiring stories, accomplishments in their life, because we need more good news than just what the news can tell us. So, bunch of stuff going on.
Stop doom scrolling and tune in.
Yeah, follow me around the internet.
Yeah, fantastic. I'm trying to get debates organized. I will, of course, have aimbot on Wednesday, and there might be a surprise of a special somebody coming to join me so my throat doesn't get ripped up by constant talking the entire time. Because aimbot, I've realized that, for an hour and a half, if I constantly talk with no interruptions to watch something or letting some other panel member, my throat actually feels kind of cut up, which is weird because I used to be on phones for 8 hours a day. So I might have to get used to it again, but it certainly is. So my lovely wife may be joining me for that. I'm not going to promise 100%. It's really up to her, but she has said that she may join me for that. So come and find out if you do want to meet the best waifu ever. And I will die on that hill. I will die on that hill.
As you should.
As I should, yeah, absolutely. But thank you so much, everybody. It's been absolutely amazing. And, the pop-in from a big thanks to Eric for popping in and sort of giving us his perspective on everything. Because, wow, if I'd known that, such a big channel would join us, I probably would have messaged him. I probably should have. I don't know.
Yeah, we could clean up the curtains a bit and put out the nice china.
Yeah. I feel sometimes like I shouldn't bug people. I don't know why I feel like that. Like I shouldn't. People are too busy to do things with me that, they might actually be interested. I should at least give them the opportunity, which is terrible. My bad. I really do have to say, but thank you so much, everybody. Don't forget to be kind to yourself, be kind to each other. Don't listen to Hovind. He doesn't know what he's talking about. It's absolutely obvious. I just want to say, if you're Mr. Anderson, go F yourself, seriously. Not Mr. Anderson, Stephen Anderson.
Yeah, Pastor Anderson. Not to be confused with lawyer friend Mr. Anderson.
I just realized, I just realized as I said it, wait, that's a channel name. No, I mean Pastor Anderson. Yeah. So this man. Hard to believe he's a violent man. It's so hard to believe.
Yeah.
So incredibly difficult to believe, right? All right, peeps, take care, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.
Good night.